Well, here we go. It's the Friday edition of The Drive. It's now 3:06 and a half on this Friday, October 27th. So glad that you're with us. Settle in. We got a lot of things going on. And, of course, this is the day that we open up the phone lines on a couple of different occasions during our 4 hours together for our very favorite segment, which we call Fone Ur FARB Friday. So if you have questions, you have things you want to get off your chest, start thinking about it. Get your thoughts together. We want you to be coherent and sharp and to the point when that happens. And it really is. I mean, we get some of the greatest comments from people who listen to this program because our audience is so vastly wise. Take you now to what is happening in Gaza. The Israeli forces have moved into Gaza in what is being said to be something of a limited incursion. What you're hearing is the sound of tank artillery fire as they move into the area. There have been a number of these sort of limited incursions. The first one, I think, was really just a plan to sort of bulldoze a road for the tanks and make sure that the area between Gaza and Israel, it's sort of a dead man zone there, was not filled with mines due to a mine clearing operation. And now they can go in and out pretty much with impunity. They are going to go in, and we were told this is not the major ground invasion. This is just this is something that they're going to be having limited operations. They cut all communications going in Gaza. There are no working cell phones. There is no internet connection. The phones are all dead there. And that's I think that's on the part of the Israelis who put your enemy in a blackout communications wise. The only information we're getting from inside Gaza right now is their ability to bounce phone calls off Israeli towers, which are nearby. So they can still get out somewhat, but it's very limited, and they're bouncing off the Israeli towers. That's how news reports and news information is getting out. But it is underway, and here is a situationer from Inez de la Cutara on the ground just outside of Gaza in Israel.
This does appear to be Israel laying the groundwork here for this big ground operation, but this is, at the moment, it does appear to be still limited ground incursion. This comes as they're also saying that they're going to be very significantly escalating their airstrikes on Gaza, this latest wave, possibly the heaviest wave of airstrikes we've seen since this all began. We have seen a number of limited incursions into Gaza in recent days. Just overnight, there were limited incursions, including by sea, and there are questions as to whether this could be the IDF maybe changing its strategy here as they're trying to get more hostages released. They might be shying away, at least for now, from that full-scale ground invasion and instead focusing on these limited raids.
So here's the official word. This is from Fox News reporting. The Israeli Defense Forces said Friday that the military is expanding its ground operation into Gaza. This is confirmed by Rear Admiral Daniel Hagari, the Army's spokesman, said aerial attacks have been targeting Hamas tunnels and other targets. In addition to the attacks that we carried out in recent days, ground forces are expanding their activity this evening. The IDF is acting with great force to achieve the objectives of war. And sources tell Fox News that, as I mentioned, mobile comms inside Gaza have been taken out. In the past few days, Israel has conducted brief ground incursions with troops and tanks to pave the way for the full-scale invasion, where they will systematically eradicate Hamas. Israel Defense Minister Yoav Gallant told journalists Friday, it's not a question of if, but when Israel conducts a ground operation to eliminate Hamas. The Israeli Defense Forces said earlier Hamas terrorist targets were struck by ground troops, fighter jets, and unmanned aerial vehicles over the past 24 hours. There were no injuries reported by the Israeli military, and the troops were in and out very quickly. Targets hit by the IDF include anti-tank missile launch sites, command and control centers, and Hamas operatives, according to the Army. And so that is what they're doing. To try to, I guess, really sort of pave the way. One of the things that I heard today out of the briefings there that I thought was very interesting is that we should not look at this as something that's going to be over in a few days. I mean, honestly, think about it. If you're the Israelis and you can go in and out with impunity, you don't have to stop, you don't have to worry, you can go in at will, then, what's the hurry? To do it systematically and thoughtfully and to try to limit, collateral damage and innocent civilians' lives, and go in there and do it. Okay, a little bit today. Okay, we made a little ground. Okay, we'll go in again tomorrow and we'll do it a little bit more. And one way or the other, over time, you can really degrade very effectively and eradicate what is left of Hamas. And who knows what's left. But he said it was going to be not a matter of days, but a matter of months. So we're gonna be hearing news out of this region for a great long while, and that is of some concern, I would imagine, to U.S. forces in the region. More on that in a moment. In a briefing for reporters, again, Rear Admiral Daniel Hagari says the Hamas terror group's main base of operation is under Shifa Hospital in Gaza City. This is the main hospital in all of Gaza City. And this is what Hamas does. They put their facilities in and around very soft targets, which, then makes it very hard for the Israelis to target them because, you can't get to them without going through, churches, mosques, hospitals, schools, those kinds of things. Hagari says Hamas has several underground complexes under Shifa, which are used by the terror group's leaders to direct attacks against Israel. We have concrete evidence that hundreds of terrorists flooded into the hospital to hide there after the massacres of October 7th. He says Israel has intelligence that there are several tunnels leading to the underground base from outside the hospital so that Hamas officials do not need to enter the hospital to reach it. But Hagari adds there's also an entrance to the underground complex from within one of the wards. Wow. Hamas terrorists operate inside and under, and Shifa is not the only hospital, it's one of many. Hamas's use of hospitals is systematic. Wow. Hagari accuses Hamas of using the hospital with 1,500 beds and some 4,000 staff as human shields. And they operate inside hospitals precisely because they know that the IDF distinguishes between terrorists and civilians. He says the hospital's energy infrastructure is also used by Hamas's underground base. So if you take out the electricity in the area, not only are you taking out Hamas's electricity, but you're taking out the electricity needed in the hospital. And so, again, they get sort of a double level of protection. It's interesting, he says, that they draw a distinction between civilians and terrorists. The Israeli military does. And they care about that, which is quite the opposite when you're talking about Hamas. They are indiscriminate, killing babies and old people and kidnapping people who are innocent civilians. I mean, they took hostages from a peace concert, of all things. Israel says it's working very closely with Washington as U.S. airstrikes target these Iran-backed militias. And that's important. And there's also something going on with regard to the United States. As we told you yesterday, we have a great number of military people splayed out across the entire Middle East region, in places like Kuwait and Iraq and Syria and others, a lot of bases in Saudi Arabia, and they've come under some attack from Syria by forces that are supported by Iran. And last night we took a few of those out. U.S. fighter jets launched airstrikes early Friday on 2 locations in eastern Syria linked to Iran's Revolutionary Guard Corps in retaliation for a slew of drone and missile attacks against U.S. bases and personnel in the region that began early last week. The strikes, according to Associated Press, reflect the Biden administration's determination to maintain a delicate balance. They want to hit Iranian-backed groups suspected of targeting the U.S. as strongly as possible to deter future aggression, possibly fueled by Israel's war against Hamas, while also working to avoid inflaming the region and provoking a wider conflict. According to senior U.S. military officials, the precision strikes were carried out near Bukamal by two F-16 fighters, and the targets were weapons and ammunition storage areas that are connected to the IRGC. The official said there had been Iranian-aligned militia and IRGC personnel on the base and no civilians, but the U.S. does not have any information yet on the total casualties or the assessment of the damage. They usually do a flyover later during daylight hours to look at what they call BDA, bomb damage assessment. A senior official said the sites were chosen because the IRGC stores the type of munitions that were used in the strikes against U.S. bases and troops. U.S. officials briefed reporters about the strikes on condition of anonymity to provide details on a mission that had not been yet made public. So that is our limited military action in the region. And, I mean, honestly, I guess the goal here of all of the military that we have in the region, that some of them are already there. Some of the forces are being bolstered. We're still putting in naval forces into the region, the Gerald Ford, the Dwight Eisenhower strike groups covering the front and the back door of that region, and a great number of assets that are designed to intercept missiles, which can come in. We've already intercepted a couple of missiles that were shot in the direction of Israel from Yemen. And U.S. forces, the goal is, what we are told, this is the official word from the Biden administration and from the Pentagon, is that we are not there to get involved in a war, but would enter if it looked like the war was widening and let's say like Iran started to get in, or Syria started to get in, or we get Hezbollah moving in from the north. That's the only time that U.S. military equipment, manpower, personnel would be used in this battle is not boots on the ground in Israel, but to just keep sort of other forces at bay. And, it is a pretty serious deterrent in the region, having a couple of battle strike groups out there and a couple of aircraft carriers that can put assets anywhere in the region in a matter literally of minutes if they need to do that. So we continue to watch it. I guess the thing I would caution here is if you think this is going to be something that is over in a few days, the Israelis are doing everything they can to sort of disabuse that notion and say, no, it will be more than that. It will take time, and the going will be slow. And by going slow, they hope to be very effective in routing out Hamas, but not hurting civilians who might still be in the region. By the way, we still have about 600 people, United States citizens, in Gaza, down near the southern gate that leads into Egypt, and they can't get out. They can't get out because, well, they don't have anybody who will open the gates on the Gaza side. The Egyptians are ready to let limited numbers through, but they have to get through the first gate and cross a no man's land before they can get to the Egyptian side. 20 minutes now past the hour of 3 o'clock. Think about the last time your larger family, extended family, got together. And did you notice that some of the more elderly members of your family may be in a position where they're starting to struggle? They're getting up there where the things that were once so easy in their lives become more difficult. Reminds us that they're approaching an age where they will need more and more help every day. And this is where assisted family care can help. They will connect you with a responsible, compatible helper to assist you with your loved one's daily needs. And if your loved one is a veteran or a spouse or a widow of a veteran, they could very well qualify for a little-known benefit to help cover these kinds of expenses. Assisted family care has years of experience in helping those in Middle Tennessee who qualify for this benefit to actually get it. You see, many veterans are eligible to receive up to 20 hours of daily living assistance each week at no cost to them. Now, not everyone is eligible, but if you're a veteran with wartime service, you may well qualify for the benefit or for yourself or for your spouse. The application process Well, it's daunting. It can be confusing, but assisted family care can help. Assisted Family Care will be there for you. Visit assistedfamilycare.com. Call this number, 615-833-9725.
Hey everybody, Dan Mattis with Nashville's Morning News on WTN. I'm here at the Nashville Rescue Mission doing the interviews that I look forward to doing every single year. These are incredible stories of people who have had amazing recoveries. Thanks to this amazing facility, they are able to get clean and lead a more productive life. The date of our annual radiothon is going to be Monday, November 20th. Listen in and please donate. You can get more information at 99.7 WTN, including a link to the website for Nashville's Rescue Mission.
The manhunt in Maine intensifies as they're still searching for the suspect, Robert Card, who allegedly killed 18 people and injured 13 others, plus some crime in Tennessee. This man did not get away with the grocery store theft that he thought he had. 3:30 Super Talk, 99.7 WTN.
25 minutes now past the hour of 3 o'clock. There's Mac Morey in the newsroom and Chris Weber in the control room. I'm Brian Wilson, your friend and radio buddy, on this Friday. Sort of a cloudy but mild weather. 70 degrees here in bucolic Watertown.
Little showers scattered about, too.
Yeah, we have had a few
sprinkles.
Yeah, we had a few sprinkles here as well, actually, yeah. And I want to take you to Lewiston, Maine, to bring you the very latest on the manhunt that is underway there. 2 days since that shooting, and we don't seem to have any idea where this guy is. Authorities are scouring the woods and hundreds of acres of family-owned property. Apparently, the Card family owns a great deal of land in this particular area along the Androscoggin River, and so they are looking everywhere. This guy knows these woods. He knows the lay of the land. He knows where every bush is. He knows where every rock is to hide behind. He's something of an outdoorsman. He is known to have great outdoor skills and survivability skills. I had some military training, and of course, he is armed and extremely dangerous. And they're looking. I mean, they're looking everywhere they can think to look, and even dredging a river to see if there's, because he left his car not too far from a boat dock, and he has boats. We don't know where they would have gone. So once you get to the water, it becomes difficult to track someone. So they're doing all of those kinds of things. Authorities found an apparent suicide note at a home associated with Card on Thursday. It was addressed to his son. They said it did not provide any specific motive for the shooting. Authorities also recovered Card's cell phone in the home, making a search for him more complicated because what they normally do in a situation like that is they ping the cell phone. And once they ping it, they can triangulate its an exact location within a few feet. They know where that cell phone is. By the way, they can do that with your cell phone, too, just in case you didn't know. The Cards lived in Bodine for, I think it's Bowden, actually, for generations. And as I said, the family owns a great deal of land. A neighbor, Dave Latart, said that Card's family let him deer hunt on their property, and they were kind. And he said he noticed Card appeared to have mental problems for a while. And this is the thing that just sort of, sticks out in cases like this. There are always people who said, yeah, that guy wasn't right for a long time. And yet nobody ever stops to think, okay, if he's not right, if he's not in his right mind, if the man is hearing voices and is exhibiting, symptoms of paranoia, maybe we need to go in there and have a conversation about what kind of weapons he has. And maybe, there are legitimate times where it's in public safety interest for them to go and do that. But nobody ever seems to do it. The family never raises the flag. Law enforcement and will not get involved unless a family member brings it to their attention. He's now charged with 18 counts of murder, or will be after all the bodies are identified. They don't have, unbelievably, 2 days after the shooting, they do not have all of the bodies that have been identified by family members. Investigators, as I said, uncovered a mysterious note. The notes, they're not talking about it. Coast Guard launched a surveillance plane and boats out of Booth Bay to join the manhunt along the river. And in some areas, there's a utility company that apparently draws water and has dams in the area. They have restricted the flow of water in the area so that they can get out into the river and look to see if they can find anything. I mean, did he throw his weapon out there? What they don't really know. They're just picking at everything they possibly can. A 15-foot boat believed to belong to Card is missing. And so he probably is somewhere down that river. And he knows the river as a fisherman, as a sportsman. He knows that river very, very, very well. Here's another story, this one from the New York Post. Suspected mass shooter Robert Card is a deer hunter capable of hiding for a long time if he doesn't want to be caught. Rick Goddard lives less than a mile down the road from Card's parents in Bowden, where the suspect grew up, and he's known the family for decades. It's his stomping ground. I mean, he grew up here. He knows the area really well. He's capable of hiding for a long time if he doesn't want to be caught. There are a lot of places you can be in the woods and never be seen. It's really dense, thick. If you know the area, there's a lot of places you can hide, and you could never see something like that from an airplane or a helicopter. The trees are so close together, you can barely walk through them. You can barely see 10 feet into the woods. If I was going to hide, that's what I would do. I'd hide someplace like that. So it looks like it's going to be a while finding him. And even though the helicopters are equipped with thermal camera imaging technology, it may not be able to penetrate this very, very thick foliage and tree canopy in the area. 31 minutes now past the hour.
3:31, I'm Mac Maury with your top story. 79 degrees, a cloudy day in Music City. Expecting some showers over the weekend. Scattered and light, nothing heavy, but it will last Saturday, Sunday, and even into Monday. Expected showers in Middle Tennessee. Traffic and a weather forecast coming up in about 5 minutes. And going over here to a breaking news story. 2 men were fatally shot in Germantown this afternoon. It happened near an apartment complex, and Don Aaron, the spokesman for MNPD, said that these men were in an argument near a dumpster on Rosa Parks Boulevard, and that's when they both fatally shot each other, and no more information has been released. Stay with Super Talk 99.7 for continuing coverage on that crime story here in Nashville. And going over to Lewiston, Maine, where that manhunt intensifies today for Robert Card as police comb through a local riverbank in wooded areas for the suspected shooter. Card is wanted for allegedly killing 18 people and injuring another 13 in a mass shooting today, or Wednesday evening, targeting 2 separate locations, including a bar and grill, hosting a community event for the local deaf network. And Lewiston resident Elizabeth McCarthy lives along one of the police's perimeters and was stuck inside during a law enforcement search of the area earlier in the day, saying she doesn't believe Card is anywhere near her home.
I think this guy's running amok somewhere, and somebody saw something or heard something maybe. I don't know.
Card's sister initially believed that a possible motive could have been Card's ex-girlfriend, and Card put himself into a mental health facility for about 2 weeks because he was reportedly, quote, hearing voices. Some crime right now in Tennessee. Channel 4 reports that a man was arrested after being seen running out of a Kroger with a grocery cart full of over $600 worth of stolen items. Police were able to chase him down and recover those stolen goods. And President Biden today met with China's top diplomat ahead of a potential sit-down with Chinese President Xi Jinping next month. Wang Yi is in the midst of a 3-day visit to Washington where he's been meeting with a series of top U.S. officials. Im Nguyen.
Secretary of State Antony Blinken met with Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi to discuss the differences between the two countries as the administration tries to reduce intense competitions between the two largest economies. The two leaders raised hopes the relationship can be steadied. The Israel-Hamas war was likely a discussion, with Washington hoping Beijing can use its influence with Iran to prevent a wider war in the Middle East. This meeting was meant to lay the groundwork ahead of an expected summit in San Francisco between President Biden and his counterpart Xi Jinping in November.
And that is the latest news, weather, and traffic next. I'm Mac Maury, WTN News.
You know, right now, a lot of people are having to make healthcare decisions for the coming year about what kind of healthcare insurance you're going to have and what deductibles you can afford, this, that, and the other. While you're thinking about that, think about this. Grace Point Healthcare delivers medicine affordably with a menu-style transparent pricing so you'll know how much it will cost before the care is delivered. And they have these things called Smart Care plans. They start at just $69 a month, and for that, you get a lot. You get unlimited office visits and free basic labs for the entire year. And because they treat the entire family, even newborns, they offer family plans as well. Now, here's how that works. You take that and you marry it with a high deductible insurance plan, which might be more reasonable than some of the low deductible insurance plans. It could save you and your family a lot of money. At Grace Point, they take their time with each patient. They see you the same or next day. There are no long wait times or crowded wait rooms. They treat naturally whenever possible. It is a military vet-owned practice. Just some of the reasons why it's been voted the best primary care provider by Toast of Music year after year after year. Grace Point wants you to know they do COVID testing and they have treatments that can help you get over it more quickly. Grace Point Healthcare is on Main Street in Franklin. Here's the number, 599-6868 to schedule a visit. It's 39 minutes past the hour, 3 o'clock. Good afternoon. Brian Wilson on a Friday. Again, reminder that at 4:35 and 5:35, Fone Ur FARB Friday. It's a fan favorite here, and your chance to sound off, step up on our 100,000-watt soapbox, and express yourself within reason because, it is a family show. Let's take you down to the swamp. I am really liking what I am beginning to see of this new Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, Republican from Louisiana. Did a rather lengthy interview last night on Hannity on Fox. And, he seems like he's a no-nonsense guy. He's already been over to the White House where he met briefly with the president, said he'd never met him before. And they had a brief conversation. Just sort of, they didn't really get into the details of a lot of things going on. But he did get into some of those details with people at the White House who were, members of the staff, members of the national security staff, etc. And, look, there are going to be some big requests that come from the White House over to Capitol Hill. Some money that the Biden administration wants for Ukraine. Some money that the Biden administration wants for Israel. And then they've actually talked about maybe ponying up some money to increase security on the southern border, which is, man, talk about $1 short and a day late. That is definitely the case. But here's how he looks at all of this, and I think you're going to like the way he lays this out.
I told the staff at the White House today that our consensus among House Republicans is that we need to bifurcate those issues. The American people are demanding some real accountability for the use of those dollars. Now, we can't allow Vladimir Putin to prevail in Ukraine because I don't believe it would stop there, and it would probably encourage and empower China to perhaps make a move on Taiwan. We have these concerns. We're not going to abandon them, but we have a responsibility, a stewardship responsibility over the precious treasure of the American people. And we have to make sure that the White House is providing the people with some accountability for the dollars. And we want to know what the objective there is. What is the end game in Ukraine? The White House has not provided that. I was at the White House for a couple of hours today, and I told the staff there that this is where we are. This is where the House Republicans are. So we're going to look at Israel separately.
That kind of money, is it America having a proxy war with Putin and Russia?
It's a great concern. We've got a group of our colleagues here in the House, led by Mike Garcia out of California, a brilliant legislator and a Top Gun pilot. And some of our veterans have gotten together. Dan Crenshaw is involved in this and others. They came up with a document that presents 12 critical questions for the White House to answer as a condition of our supplying the additional support. These are not hard questions, Sean. These are things the White House should be forthcoming about. I delivered it myself today and to the National Security Advisor, Jake Sullivan.
Did you read it?
He says he's studied.
He's going to study it tonight during the show.
Yes. So we want to be cooperative. We need to work together on this, but we owe it to the people to know what the plan is, where the money is going to be spent, and we need some auditing for the dollars that we've already sent over there. These are not tough questions, right? Israel is a separate matter. We're going to bring forward a standalone Israel funding measure over $14 billion. It's a very specific number tied to very specific measures, but here's the important thing that distinguishes House Republicans from the other team. We're going to find pay-fors in the budget. We're not just printing money to send it overseas. We're going to find the cuts elsewhere to do that.
I like that idea a lot. Okay, you want that, then where are you going to cut? Let's find the money within the money that we already have. Let's not just keep printing dollars and sending them overseas. I love that idea. And I also like the idea of, as he says, bifurcating the issue, Ukraine and Israel. Look at them as separate requests, not just lump everything together. That's the way Washington likes to do things. We'll just lump everything together in this big CR omnibus bill, a cromnibus bill, and then nobody really knows what's in there. Let's look at each of those items independently. And by the way, I think it is about time that we get some accountability for the dollars that have been sent to Ukraine. And I have a feeling we're not going to be able to get those answers easily, quite frankly. So I love that. I love that a great deal. I thought that was exactly the right approach. And let some people make an independent decision about Israel and Ukraine, which are two very different things, of course. Now, also, the House of Representatives is in the middle of an impeachment inquiry. He is very much interested, the new speaker is, and getting to the bottom of all that, and a big supporter of the things that House Republicans are doing in way of investigating this matter.
I believe the documents are proving all that. As my good brother Jamie Comer often says, the bank records don't lie. So we have the receipts on so much of this now. It's a real problem. That's the reason that we shifted into the impeachment inquiry stage on the president himself, because if in fact all the evidence leads to where we believe it will, that's very likely impeachable offenses. That's listed as a cause for impeachment in the Constitution. Bribery and other high crimes and misdemeanors. Bribery is listed there, and it looks and smells a lot like that. And I think the evidence, we're going to follow the truth where it leads. We're going to engage in due process because, again, we're the rule of law party. I know people are getting anxious and they're getting restless and they just want somebody to be impeached, but that's not. We don't do that like the other team. We have to base it upon the evidence, and the evidence is coming together. We'll see where it leads.
And really, I think it is coming together. And if you haven't been following it very closely in the last few days, I think that some of the information that we're starting to get about the personal bank records of Hunter Biden and brother James Biden are really starting to point directly at Joe Biden. And there are some things that he needs to explain, which I think, they're actually asking the White House to explain. The White House thus far not responding, but they will in time. Other things happening in the swamp that I think you may find interesting. Remember that guy, Jamal Bowen, representative, who pulled the fire alarm to delay a vote And everybody thought, well, nothing will happen. He did have to go and be processed. He's been charged with a crime. It's against the law to pull a fire alarm like that. And it is also against the law to delay a government, session by doing something, and obstructing the ability to carry out that session. And so he went over it. But, you were right. At the end of the day, nothing much is going to happen. Here he is outside the courthouse after meeting with the deputy attorney general for the District of Columbia.
Pay the fine. 3 months from now, it'll be dismissed, and I'll be able to just continue to serve my district.
You mean it'll be dismissed, like it'll be expunged from your record?
I believe so, yes.
That's the deal?
Yes, yeah.
With Capitol Police?
ACD, the DCAG.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just going to be expunged. Nothing to see here. Nothing to look at. We're just going to expunge it. Take it off your record. It's like it never happened at all. A Democrat-controlled city gives a Democrat a break. Who would have thought that might have happened, huh? And then finally from the swamp, a group of freshman House Republicans from New York on Thursday forced a vote on a resolution to expel Representative George Santos, a Republican from New York. This is a rare instance of lawmakers trying to kick a member of their own party out of Congress, and it signifies the distinct political peril Santos faces as a result of his federal criminal prosecution. The GOP-led expulsion was precipitated by an indictment earlier this month that hit Santos with 10 new charges, including wire fraud, aggravated identity theft, and credit card fraud. This was brought forward by Representative Anthony D'Esposito, a Republican of New York, as a so-called privileged motion. And this will then begin the clock ticking for a vote on the measure next week. Yeah, so they could well kick this guy out, and it's coming from the New York delegation. A spokesperson for Speaker Mike Johnson did not say how he plans to proceed with the vote, and quite frankly, you can't afford to lose many Republicans out of the Republican conference because you have such thin margins to begin with. But this is the difference between Democrats and Republicans. The Democrats, if somebody screws up and violates a law, well, they sweep it under the rug. Oh, we'll come up with some kind of plea deal. Oh, it'll all be expunged here in 6 months. Just don't pull the fire alarm again, Congressman. But if you're a Republican, Republicans hold people accountable for their actions. And even though it's probably not in the best interest of the Republican conference in the House of Representatives, given that we don't have that many votes more than the Democrats have, they're prepared, I think, to pull the trigger on this guy and actually expel him from Congress. Remember, we have a Democrat governor in the state of New York who would make the appointment. 50 minutes now, past the hour of 3 o'clock on Super Talk.
Hey folks, I'm Paul Winkler. One of the biggest decisions people have to make in retirement is how to take Social Security. You'll get all kinds of workshops about that, and you'll see all kinds of things about that particular topic. Because Social Security, for some people, it might be a third or even more of their income in retirement. So you want to get this decision right. Well, how do you make the decision? Well, one of the things we look at, there are programs we use. This is one of the simpler programs that we use right here. And I want to just show you how it works and how it actually unravels some of the misconceptions we have about Social Security. So we have two people here, they're age 60, and they're looking at filing for Social Security. One person has a retirement benefit of $2,500. That is their main benefit from Social Security at their full retirement age. The other one has a $500 benefit. And what we can do here, which is kind of cool, is look at this and say, okay, well, what if we have this person has that life expectancy and that person has that life expectancy there? And then what we do is we assume a certain cost of living increase in Social Security. What would be the optimal for taking the benefit where they get the most benefit or the most bang from their buck. And where we see the star, that shows that we would have the best benefit. Now, this is one person finally at age 67, the other person at age 70. Well, a lot of people think, well, I retire, I have to take Social Security at the same time that I retire, and that's not necessarily the case. As you can see here, one may take it at one age and one may take it at another, even though they're the same age right now. Now, the other thing we can do is say, well, what if I took it early? What if I took it at this particular age right here, where one person's 65 and the other one's 65? You can actually see how much it could cost in benefits. When we do this, we can see how much it might cost us and how much it might affect us negatively to do that. Now, the other thing we can do is we can play around the life expectancies, and we say, well, if this person lives to that age, now the cost is $187,000 in this particular example, taking it at that age right there. So you can see, based on your own life expectancy, and typically people will say, well, what did my parents live to, and come up with that type of data. So this is just part of the financial planning process that we use at Paul Winkler Inc. If you want to know more about what we do, you can get a free 15-minute phone call at our website, paulwinkler.com. We do financial planning, full financial planning. We do investing, education, and investing. We actually help people through those decisions, helping them set up their 401ks and those types of decisions, as well as risk management. But we don't get paid on commission. That's what makes us so different from other firms out there that do what we do. So if you want to find out more, go to paulwinkler.com.
It's 56 minutes now past the hour of 3 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. Let's take a look at the markets right now. Dow Jones Industrials are down about, more than 1%, down 366 points. S&P ended the day down 20. NASDAQ up slightly, up 47 points. We have some other things. I mean, bonds are unchanged and hovering at about 4.8% on a 10-year note. The oil is up, both Brent crude and West Texas Intermediate up significantly. Brent just at $90 a barrel. Gold also up dramatically today, up nearly a full percent. An ounce of gold will now cost you $2,015.30. Standing by with more on exactly what is driving all these numbers is John Maxon from Beacon Capital Management. Hello, John.
Hey, Brian. Actually, the market started positive today on earnings from Amazon that seemed to calm some nerves, but then it turned negative because the Fed's inflation gauge they preferred, the PC index, came out, and it was the highest number we've seen in about 4 months. But the year over year was actually lower, so a little bit of a mixed report. You got the market, businesses, and really the consumer hoping the Fed will change its stance on this higher rate for longer message. But with the market turning negative, the S&P has now joined the NASDAQ in a correction. So some people are nervous about that. But, corrections are part of long-term investing. They tend to be somewhat short. Next week, we're going to get a lot of employment information. So that's a key driver that we're going to want to pay attention to.
All right. Thank you, John Maxon. And learn more about all the things they can do for you over at Beacon Capital Management by going to their website, askbeaconnow.com. 58 minutes past the hour of 3 o'clock. All right, let me tell you a little bit about EverSeal. If you don't know what it is, we've been talking about it for a while now. It is a sealant for your exterior wood and concrete. Now, think about that. How often do you do that kind of thing? Seal your deck or seal your concrete? A lot of people do that every year, every other year. Well, this technology has been around for ages and has been used in industrial applications. But the folks over at EverSeal figured out how to provide a permanent solution for sealing your exterior wood and concrete at a price that home and business owners can actually afford. They start with a deep cleaning. I mean, they go and they make that wood and that concrete look just as new as it can possibly look. And then they apply this patented sealant, which absorbs all the way through your wood and concrete to become a permanent part of your wood and concrete and will prevent further deterioration for the next 30 to 50 years. I said 30 to 50 years. Think about that. Think about all the time you'll save not having to do this on an annual basis. Think about all the money that you will save not having to spend that money on an annual basis. If this sounds like something that you'd like to investigate further, and I can't imagine why you wouldn't, why don't you reach out to Steve Nelson and the team over at EverSeal? They can answer your questions, give you more information. 844-EVER-USA. That's 844-EVER-USA. Learn more at ever-seal.com.
Four o'clock, I'm Mac Maury with your top stories. Right now, 78 degrees, a cloudy day in Music City. Latest traffic report and a weather forecast on the way in 5 minutes. Manhunt in Maine, drivers heading into the water off of a dock in Lewiston where mass shooting suspect Robert Card had a boat and near where his car was abandoned. Michelle Franson.
Police in Maine, along with the FBI and other agencies, frantically searching for Robert Card, the Army reservist and suspected gunman in this week's mass shooting. The town of Lewiston and nearby communities racked with grief and fear as they remain on lockdown.
Lewiston Police Chief David St. Pierre thanking the hundreds of law enforcement actively searching and for the community around Lewiston under an extended shelter-in-place lockdown.
Again, I will ask the community to be as patient as possible with this process, realizing that there are many, many moving parts and coordination of efforts involved between multiple agencies.
He says while the searching continues, still no capture of Robert Card in the shooting deaths of 18 victims and the wounding of 13 others, some in grave condition. Derek Dennis, ABC News, Lewiston, Maine.
Authorities are also looking into Card's association with anyone at the bowling alley and bar where the shootings take place and his history dealing with mental health issues.
In an update on the war between Israel and Hamas, IDF officials announced this afternoon that they are planning to expand operations into Gaza later tonight, appearing to escalate the fighting against Hamas inside the Gaza Strip. Louis Martinez with the latest.
We have seen a number of limited incursions into Gaza in recent days. Just overnight, there were limited incursions, including by sea. And there are questions as to whether this could be the IDF maybe changing its strategy here as they're trying to get more hostages released. They might be shying away, at least for now, from that full-scale ground invasion and instead focusing on these limited raids.
And in Minnesota, Congressman Dean Phillips is waging a primary challenge against President Biden. The House Democrat says he's running because he believes Biden could lose to former President Trump if he wins the Republican nomination. Justin Finch.
Congressman Dean Phillips holding a presidential campaign rally in New Hampshire after declaring his candidacy in the first-in-the-nation Democratic primary.
It is time for the torch to be passed to a new generation of American leaders.
The multimillionaire saying he's not running in opposition to President Biden, but because he believes he can win the 2024 presidential election. Meantime, the Democratic governor of Phillips' home state appearing to take a shot at Phillips, referencing some Minnesotans making political sideshows for themselves in the fundraising letter for the Biden campaign.
And that is the latest news. Traffic and weather on the way. I'm Mac Morey, WTN News.
Good afternoon, everybody. 7 minutes past the hour of 4 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. I'm Brian Wilson, and this is The Drive, hour number 2 on a Friday. And by the way, get your ideas and your thoughts together for Fone Ur FARB Friday coming up in about 30 minutes from now. We love to hear what's on your mind, and that'll all happen in the 4 o'clock and the 5 o'clock hour. We'll do that. Just to recap what's going on in some of our bigger stories, we do have a limited ground incursion now underway into Gaza. The Israelis going in with tanks and artillery, and we are told this will not be the actual big ground invasion, that they're just going in for limited purposes. All communications into Gaza have gone silent. They don't have any internet. They don't have any phone right now. The other story, of course, the manhunt continues up in Maine for the individual who is responsible for the death of some 18 people, now charged with 18 counts of murder, and widespread manhunt, and police are honest about it. They don't really have any idea where that individual might be. I want to take us next to a story that we cover a lot here on this program, because I think it is one of those things that, honestly, you need to hear about. And it has sort of a day in, day out Groundhog Day effect, and we don't stop and think about how big the numbers are. I'm talking about the border situation, our southern border. And we don't stop and think about how this thing adds up over time. We tell one little piece of the story this day and one little piece of the story that day. But when you stop back and look at exactly how many people the Biden administration has let across the border and into America, where they honestly don't know, honestly, in many cases, who these people really are. They honestly don't know, where they are in America. We don't know where they've settled. They're supposed to check in, but they very rarely do. They simply, once they get across the border, they get that piece of paper from the Border Patrol, they settle into the fabric of America, and they are everywhere. We know that some of them have gathered in major cities because we hear the major cities complaining about it, but they're right here in our backyard as well. If you add up, and this is an amazing statistic, when you add up all of the illegal migrants who are now been allowed into the United States by the Biden administration, it would make up, if you put them all together, the 13th largest state in America. I mean, let's think about that for a moment. That would mean that only the states of Virginia, New Jersey, Michigan, North Carolina, Georgia, Ohio, Illinois, Pennsylvania, New York, Florida, Texas, and California would have more people than this imaginary state that we're talking about. That's right. That there are more illegal migrants that have come into this country than now live in Washington State, in Arizona. Tennessee is number 15. And there are more illegal migrants that exist in the entire state of Tennessee. Massachusetts, Indiana, Missouri, Maryland, Wisconsin are all smaller than this state that would exist if you took all of the illegal migrants and put them into one state. Wow. Think about that. Think about the impact that has on cities and towns across America, where you have to absorb the cost of housing these people in many cases, or the education costs that come with making sure that the children get an education when they get to your community and enroll in your schools. Think about, the crime that has come across the border with that 8 million people, because not all of these people are good people. Not all of them are bad, but not all of them are good. Current data suggests that Biden's Department of Homeland Security is releasing upwards to 100,000 illegal immigrants a month in the United States. The federal agencies being overwhelmed by the surge of asylum seekers at the southern border. Most illegal immigrants released in the U.S. receive a court date where their legal status, if made request for asylum, will be decided. However, the House of Representatives Judiciary Committee has found that the Biden administration has failed to remove through the immigration court proceedings over 99% of those who come here and are released into the country. 1%! 1%, that's all that they have held court hearings for. At that rate, people could be here decades before they would ever have to go to court, if ever. And of course, many American voters worry that the influx of illegal immigration could result in widespread voter fraud in this upcoming election. Instead of working to stem the human tidal wave that's wrecking local governments and causing concern, President Biden has instead warned U.S. financial institutions that they can't discriminate against illegal immigrants on credit or loan decisions. Unfreaking believable. In New York City, the problem has gotten so bad that the city is actually now offering anybody who is there as an illegal immigrant a one-way ticket, one-way plane ticket out of town. Wherever you want to go, we'll send you, as long as you don't stay here. Trying to send their problems to other cities around the country. With no sign of decompression strategy in the near future, we have established a reticketing center for migrants, says New York City Mayor Eric Adams. Here, the city will redouble efforts to purchase tickets for migrants and help them make the next steps on their journeys. Wherever you want to go, we'll give you a free one-way ticket. The aggressive plan comes as the city deals with 130,000 immigrants who have entered the Big Apple since last year, and as it tightens how long newcomers can stay in shelters. Immigrants can now only remain in shelters for 30 to 60 days. However, the majority of immigrants find alternative housing or take up city's reticketing offer upon completing their stay. The newcomers are allowed to fly anywhere in the world on the city's dime, and some have chosen to go back home to Colombia and Morocco, for example. However, others have decided to stay in the United States but travel to less crowded states such as Michigan. According to the city, less than 20% of the immigrants who have exceeded their 30 to 60-day limits continue to be in its care. The cost of airfare for the immigrants, regardless of destination, would be noticeably cheaper than the $394 a day it costs to take care of each one now in their city. Wow. $394 a day, and there's 130,000 of them. That's well over $139,000 every day. When you're out of room, it means you're out of room, said Adams. Every year my relatives show up at Thanksgiving and they all want to sleep at my house. There's no more room. That's where we are right now. Okay. That's special. 2023, we've just wrapped up. At 1st of October is the end of fiscal year as far as the government concerns. A fiscal year for the government ends on October 1. So they're just now getting the statistics for 2023, at least the fiscal year. 2023 has been the worst year on record at the border, with a staggering 3.2 million encounters nationwide, according to a report from the House Committee on Homeland Security. Encounters at the southwest border in fiscal year 2023 increased over 40% since 2021. 40% increase since 2021. More than 100,000%, check that. More than 100% compared to 2019. A total of 2.47 million illegal immigrant encounters were reported at the southern border in 2023. And by the way, there were 189,402 illegal immigrant encounters at the northern border. The committee fact sheet highlighted the increase in border encounters in 2023 compared to previous years, calling the figure another unprecedented milestone under Department of Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas and President Joe Biden's open border policies. Good Lord. The costs to communities all around the country is staggering. I mean, imagine that you had put all these people together and it would make up the 13th largest state in America. It's like that is just insane when you think about it in that regard. And those people have got to, they've got to find a place to live. They got to find a place to work. They're taking American jobs. And nothing seems to be happening to solve the problem. The Biden administration, I think, as a gesture or as a symbol of well, we understand that there's a problem, decided to start to build a few fences to go back into building the wall. That's way too late. Way too late. And I don't need to tell you the things that we always talk about, how a great number of these people have come across and had no contact with police whatsoever. None whatsoever. The so-called gotaways, 1.7, maybe more than 1.7 million people in this country that we don't know anything about. Not a thing. We don't know who they are. We don't know where they came from. We don't know what they're up to. We don't know if they are good people or bad people, but these are the people that want to run from the Border Patrol, so it suggests that there's 1.7 million people who have something to hide. Maybe it's that they're terrorists who have come into this country from people from countries that are on the terrorist watch list. Maybe they are criminals, and they don't want their criminal record exposed, so they slip in and try to avoid the police. Whatever it is, you don't run from the police unless you have something to hide. And there's an awful lot of people in this country that we don't know anything about who have apparently something to hide. And it continues. It's not over yet. If the Biden administration has its way, it'll keep climbing up. Right now it's right behind Virginia. And before long, it could be right behind one of the major population centers of our country, places like New York, Florida, Texas, California, because nothing is stopping this. Nothing is stopping this. No one seems to be interested in trying to make the situation better. Now, in a moment, I know that news probably hacks you off a little bit, but I've got some other stories that will also, as we say, news that will light your fuse. It's 20 minutes past the hour of 4 o'clock now. One of the things I love about Genesis Diamonds is that they're always bringing in new and fresh jewelry and diamonds. You're never going to see the same old choices if you go to Genesis. With diamonds, they're always bringing in fresh cut stones straight from the world's diamond cutters. Every size you can imagine, including the larger and rarer diamonds, 3 and 5, even 10 carats. Nobody has diamond selection that can come anywhere near that. And with designer jewelry, Genesis has partnered with all the top designers from New York and Los Angeles, and they are on the cutting edge when it comes to what's in style, what's not, what's hot, and the stuff that they see in Genesis you will not find in other stores, guaranteed. It's a constantly moving, constantly changing inventory, always new selections. It's another reason why Genesis dominates the jewelry scene here and why people drive for hours to be able to shop at this amazing store. They've got it all. Huge selection, uncompromising quality, unbeatable value, ironclad warranties, and white glove customer service. Genesis Diamonds and luxury pre-owned Rolexes as well. By the way, new Rolexes have just come in. Genesis, official jeweler of the Tennessee Titans, Green Hills, and Cool Springs.
Hey everybody, Dan Mattis with Nashville's Morning News on WTN. I'm here at the Nashville Rescue Mission doing the interviews that I look forward to doing every single year. These are incredible stories of people who have had amazing recoveries. Thanks to this amazing facility, they are able to get clean and lead a more productive life. The date of our annual Radiothon is going to be Monday, November 20th. Listen in and please donate. You can get more information at 99.7 WTN, including a link to the website for Nashville's Rescue Mission.
A news conference update from authorities in Lewiston, Maine, as that manhunt for mass shooting suspect continues. And the latest from Wall Street. I'm Mac Morey, Super Talk 99.7 WTN 430.
It's 24 minutes past the hour of 4 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. I am Brian Wilson I'm in the chair and on the air is what I was trying to say.
You're also on the chair and in the air.
Yeah, I am.
It just sounds weird.
Yeah, it is weird. I don't know. I don't even know why I went there. We have this new thing that we do here, and I think there are these stories out there. A lot of stories we do, just news and information, and just sort of keep you apprised of what's going on around you. But every once in a while, about once a day, I find a story that it's just gonna hack you off. And so we were looking around for a title for that segment. We're going to do that story that really makes you mad, it really hacks you off, really chaps your buns. I mean, whatever. And we played around with a lot of it. We came up with news that will light your fuse. And so here is today's entry into that category, and I found it on the WSMV website. Jeremy Finley, the reporter, talks about a problem that they have out in Green Hills, for example. And it's a problem all around our area, but the example that he gives is in Green Hills. Victoria Harris has a frequent uninvited guest at her Green Hills homes. When he first started vandalizing me, he would take my bird feeders and throw them over the fence. I got a Ring camera and I caught him on camera. She wasn't prepared for what the video would show, however. When he came around the fence, his pants were down. Wow. That made me a little scared. It looks like things were escalating. A few miles away in Berry Hills, Dalton Newberry has a Ring video camera of the same guy, who can be seen on video trying to open the doors of his car and carport. He checked out both our cars and realized they were locked. So Newsbury posted his video on the next door to warn his neighbors. And the neighbors had their own videos of the same man sneaking into yards, checking doors, rummaging through unlocked cars. People are outraged, and it's every night, Newberry told WSMV. They have the man's name. His name is Marquitas Hodge. And his arrest records show he's been charged with more than 100 crimes. But his incarceration record at the downtown detention center show he's been let out of jail more than 60 times. Video shows him riding his bike to his crime scenes, which is routinely Harris's back patio. When she calls police, Harris says he always hears the same response from officers. We don't have the resources. We don't have the facilities. We really don't know what to do with these people. Channel 4's investigation found that the DA's office, along with the task force of agencies, including the Public Defender's Office, have identified, are you ready for this number? This is the part that'll make you mad. 229 accused criminals in Nashville who cannot be prosecuted for crimes because they have been deemed to be incompetent to stand trial. They are put in jail, and they are released back into the community where they continue doing exactly what they were doing before. They are examined by the Vanderbilt University Forensic Evaluation Team, and if found to be incompetent to stand trial, they cannot be prosecuted and are released. It's frustrating, says Newberry. There are no repercussions for his actions at all for anybody that's doing it. 229 people who are out there just terrorizing neighborhoods, doing things that make neighborhoods unsafe. And these people have to live with it because, well, we just don't know what to do with these people. It's enough to make you mad. It must make you shout. It makes me mad, I'll tell you that for sure.
Why were his pants down?
I don't know. I mean, who knows?
Pull up your pants, my man. Pull up those pants.
Well, I mean, doesn't that make you nervous, though, that this is, okay, if he tore up a bird feeder, it's one thing. But if he's running around half naked, that seems like it might be a bigger issue, huh?
Yeah.
Funk, D.A. Funk, Glenn Funk says, it's a lack of funding. Okay. All right. He's always got some excuse. I don't know. But it makes me mad. It makes me very angry that, the community has to put up with this kind of stuff, and there's nothing that we can do. Certainly, if public safety were to be the important thing in a community, the most important thing that a government can provide its people is to know that they are safe. And to stop this guy from, coming out and breaking into their cars and breaking into their backyards and vandalizing this and vandalizing that, showing up half naked in somebody's backyard. Can't we get somebody to do something about this? Can't we get somebody to find a solution to this problem? For this guy and the 228 other cases that are very similar around the area where they're in and out of jail. You want to make the city safer? Find some way to deal with these 229 people rather than just throw up your hands and say, oh, well, there's nothing we can do. I mean, come on. And now, let's make sure we get it all out of our system. I mean, I don't want to leave you in a tense state. So let's take a deep breath. All together now. In with the good air. And then slowly. Nope. I'm still pissed off. It's 30 minutes now past the hour.
.30, I'm Mac Maury with your top stories. Right now, 73 degrees, mostly cloudy, expecting some rain over the weekend in Middle Tennessee. Those chances really increasing starting tomorrow afternoon. Got a full weather forecast, the latest traffic report on the way in 5 minutes. Authorities in Lewiston, Maine, holding a news conference on the hunt for a mass shooting suspect, Robert Card. Lewiston is changing their shelter-in-place orders starting tomorrow. Here's Mike Soschuk, Commissioner of the Department of Public Safety.
Has been rescinded. Specifically, hunting, again, is prohibited in those 4 towns and those 4 towns only. And it's important that I mention that because the rest of the state is allowed to continue with their resident-only day on Saturday, tomorrow. And what does that mean? That means that there are going to be communities that hear gunshots from time to time because they're going to be hunting. So we would ask everybody to use caution in that and not think that every one of those gunshots is directly regarding this particular crisis situation, this investigation.
They're expecting to have a press conference tomorrow afternoon with any more updates. Crime right now in Tennessee. Channel 4 says that a man was arrested after being seen running out of a Kroger with a grocery cart full of over $600 worth of stolen items. Police were able to chase him down and recover those stolen goods. Now over to the latest money news. Dave Packer.
Another down day on Wall Street. The S&P was pulled 10% below its July peak, officially entering correction territory. The S&P lost 20 points to end at 4117. The Dow fell 366 points. The Nasdaq, though, ended up 47 points. Stocks have been struggling for a couple of reasons. Several big tech companies tanked on summer corporate earnings reports, and rising Treasury yields in the bond market tightened their grip on Wall Street. Separately, a report finds U.S. consumer expectations for inflation in the coming year are rising. Those expectations could lead to a vicious cycle that worsens high inflation. FTX founder Sam Bankman-Fried started testifying at his fraud trial, saying the business he hoped would move the cryptocurrency ecosystem forward ended up hurting customers instead. And a former model for Abercrombie & Fitch is suing, alleging the retailer allowed its former CEO Mike Jeffries to run a sex trafficking organization during his 22-year tenure.
And that is the latest news. Traffic, weather on the way. I'm Mac Maury, WTN News.
Let me tell you about the folks over at Legend Steakhouse. Have you been to a Legend Steakhouse? It's Johnny Fleeman's place over there. You know, they got them all over the area. And a great place to go tonight if you're headed home, you want a good steak. Stop in at a Legend Steakhouse. But they also want to mention that they're available for lunch, and they got a great meat and two thing going on over there. Fried pork chops, Smoky Mountain meatloaf, fried catfish. This one sounds good. Slow-cooked pot roast with gravy. They got 14 vegetables and casseroles to choose from. I mean, things like broccoli casserole, turnip greens, bourbon glazed apples. This is home cooking. This is the kind of stuff your mama used to make. And in fact, these recipes came from Johnny's mom. He borrowed them some 30 years ago and never gave them back. Legend Steakhouse has multiple locations. It's good food at a fair price. If you're in Davidson County, check out their Smyrna location. It's just off Almaville Road, open 7 days a week for lunch and for dinner. To learn more, go to Legend Steakhouse for locations. Online menu ordering also at that website. A local Tennessee company, been around for some 34 years. Now, by the way, we have Veterans Day coming, and Johnny wants you to know that if you're a veteran, you eat for free at Legend Steakhouse on Veterans Day. I think you're going to enjoy and really savor your next trip to the Legend Steakhouse.
Specifically regarding precision ag, this is a movement or an initiative that Pheasants and Quail Forever is taking on where we can help farmers take advantage of the data they collect and during harvest, during planting season, and use that to identify areas in the field that are underproducing for whatever reason. Maybe it's shade, water, there's perennial wet spots, odd areas that are just hard to farm. Farm equipment's getting big now, and it's hard to farm some of these smaller areas. And so these areas that the yield isn't high enough to exceed the input costs, we're losing money on those acres. So Are there some alternate land use covers, wildlife covers that we can use and put on the ground that benefit wildlife but also benefit the bottom line? There's a lot of opportunities, a lot of conservation programs and conservation practices out there that can benefit the land, and they require management. And so some people might be familiar with the Conservation Reserve Program, or CRP. And that is a program administered by USDA for farmers and landowners to take those certain areas out of production and return them to a wildlife cover beneficial to different wildlife.
We started taking non-productive acres years ago and putting them in CRP, and seeing a great benefit of that, not only for wildlife, but erosion control and the money side of it. You know, we have to make a living to stay in business just like everybody else. You know, if you've got non-productive acres that you're losing money on, and you can get something out of them, plus benefit the soil from erosion, plus benefit the wildlife.
"39 minutes past the hour of 4 o'clock. Super Talk. I'm Brian Wilson, in the chair and on the air as we go to my favorite part of the week. I love this so much. A type place where you can sound off. A little thing we like to call Fone Ur FARB Friday. That's right. Here's the number, 615-737-9986. Or think of it this way, 615-737-WWTN. And that's right. Give us a call and get ready to climb up on that 100,000 watt soapbox that we call a transmitter. Get up there and, you just say what's on your mind within boundaries, because it is a family show. Maybe you got a bee in your bonnet. Maybe you've got a burr in your saddle. Maybe you've got a bug in a place where, well, really, I'd hope you never have a bug. But just get up there and just let us know what's on your mind. 615-737-9986. I mean, maybe you want to take umbrage with something you heard. Maybe you think there's something going on that, I need to know about. Maybe you have a question. Everybody likes to try to stump the chump. 615-737-9986. We start with David in Hendersonville. David, good afternoon. You're on with Brian on the drive. What do you say, David?
How you doing, Brian?
I'm doing well.
The border, they're not going to stop. That little fence and stuff they're putting up that up just because there's an election. He's on the video or he's on audio. I'm not sure if it's video or not, but literally saying he wants the border to have a steady flow. By the time he's done, white man will be minority in this country.
Well, I will say this. I do think it's an attempt to, I can't buy exactly what you're saying, but I do think it's an attempt by the Democrats to change the election demographics of this country in a huge way. I mean, look, the idea here is if you let a lot of folks come across the border, eventually, you're going to find that some pathway to citizenship, which if you can do that, you could, then people then would have the right to vote. And the thinking is, well, since the Democrats let them in, they'll be beholden to Democrats. I'm not sure that's true, but one way or the other, they believe it's true. And that's their long-term plan, is to change the demographics of a lot of states that are right now sort of purple states, maybe, and states where they can perhaps change the whole state from red to blue. It's really what they're up to. And I, it's just a matter of time. By the way, there is a real concern that some of the folks coming across the border will find a way to vote anyway illegally. And that's of great concern and something that we're going to have to watch for in the 2024 election cycle. Here's Jerry in Murfreesboro. Jerry, you're up next on the drive. What do you say?
Well, I hate to tell you, but they're probably already going to vote. So they already got, about 8 to 24 million people, and they're going to be voting. But I'm calling about, the legislature's job is to make the laws, and the executive office is to enforce it. Well, what's the only repercussion if they don't follow the Constitution and follow what they're supposed to be doing?
Well, it would be impeachment.
Impeachment, but, is that going to really happen?
Well, I don't know. We got an impeachment inquiry going, but it's not really focused on this. I think that you could make a case for impeachment based on the fact that they haven't faithfully executed the laws of the country. But, nobody seems to be going down that path right now.
But even if you impeach them, they're not going to remove them.
No. Well, we don't even know where they are. We couldn't remove them today if we wanted to. If a new administration comes in, and I pray that they do, it's going to be very difficult to track all these people down. There are millions of them. Millions. Like I told you, if you take all of the illegal immigrants who've come across the border since Joe Biden took the oath of office and put them all together, it would be the equivalent of the 13th largest state in America. How are you going to find all those folks? How are you going to track them down? We don't have any clue where they are. Hey, listen, thanks for the call, Jerry. Ron, out on the road. Hey, Ron, what's on your mind today?
Hey, Brian, listen to the trucker that drives a Tesla. Simple question for you. Now, listen, I've been known to mumble my words and not enunciate, but for the life of me, I can't understand the name of that guy at your station that does the weather. What's his name?
I don't know. I'm always doing other stuff when when the weather is on.
It's something Stefano DiPietro or something like that.
Yeah, Ron. The gentleman's name is Stefano DiPietro. First name Stefano, last name DiPietro.
Stefano DiPietro.
DiPietro.
I appreciate that because I've been wondering for the longest time. He says it so fast.
He does say it fast. Yeah, I will agree with that.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you, guys.
And I'm just embarrassed that I didn't know the answer to that question. But I mean, when the weather's on, I'm getting ready for the next segment, so I'm always focused on something else. Brian, out on the road. And Brian, the first question, of course, is how do you spell your name? Do you spell it correctly?
Yes.
With an I?
Yes.
Okay, then you may proceed then.
Let me ask you a question. Does anybody know what an on-ramp means? An on-ramp means get it on. Get your butt up to speed. I almost got killed by a semi-driver because they're doing 40 miles an hour, and on top of that, they got a radar detector. We should have a law where we can pull somebody over, take their radar detector, slap them in the head, and go. Because you don't need a radar detector if you're doing 40 in a 70.
No, you don't. You don't need that. But I'm telling you what, merging is blood sport in the state of Tennessee. I mean,
Yes,
some people come cranking out of there at full speed, and there's some who dragging their feet, and there's no
consistency. And then when you
consistency
put your
to it.
flashers to tell them to move on over, they think there's something wrong with their car, or you get the, you get the number one sign. No,
Yeah,
we're flashing our lights to say, come on over. Don't stop in the middle of the interstate and go over to the left like you normally do.
Yeah, I got you. All right, Brian, thank you. I think a lot of people share that frustration. How about Tim and Sparta? Got a few phone lines open, by the way, 615-737-9986. Tim, what's on your mind?
Hey, Brian. Well, I think the other day, maybe yesterday and a little bit today, you were talking about all the jails, with not incarcerating all these people that need to be incarcerated.
Right.
I'm actually in law enforcement. I've been in law enforcement really off and on since 1986, but I've worked in corrections. And then you get to talking about the border, and that's a whole nother aspect of all that. But the problem is not that the warrants aren't getting served. The problem is that these people get served, they bond it out, and then they run. And then it's all about money because the bonding companies, and if it was up to me, we wouldn't even have bonding companies because they bond people out for, if they had to pay the court, we would definitely need bigger jails because.
So where is the bottleneck in your mind then?
The jails obviously are not all jails are overcrowded. They get the people out of there because they make so much per day for their inmates, but the problem really is that the sentences aren't stiff enough. They drop you'll get 3 charges on a person, and then they take a plea and they drop all these other minor charges, so they get a lesser sentence. They take a plea, so then they get maybe 30% of a sentence, and then so a lot of it's all about money. I mean, it's like the probation is making money. The bondsmen are making money, but I had issue with you're talking about the warrants are sitting in drawers.
Well, I had a conversation with someone who's very much very well aware of how the system works, and told me that in some places that is actually what is happening. They don't have really the jail cell, so they end up not serving the warrants.
Oh, now that is the case in some jails. I've been to 66 and the 95 jails in Tennessee.
Wow.
But yeah, we have very good judges in our county, in the county I'm in. Really good. A lot of it is, like I said, they and the judges. Maybe sometimes they don't give them a stiff enough sentence, but I mean,
right.
Like I said.
I think what we've decided here, Tim, and I've got to move on because I got a lot of people stacked up here. But I think I'm not saying that that's the only problem. I think it's multifaceted, and I think in some places the jails are a problem that they don't have room, and so therefore things get backed up, and then there's a reluctance to hand out more sentences because the jails are full. They have no place to put them if they do convict them than the jury of their peers. Thanks for the call, though, man. I appreciate it. Brian in Clarksville, you're up next on the drive. What do you say, Brian?
Hey, Brian, I'm glad you spell your name right also. B-R-I, not the Y.
That's correct.
Hey, I want to talk about the Bidenomics. Y'all got it wrong. Bidenomics is working. It's absolutely working. Y'all's definition is wrong. I know he says it's going to do all this good stuff for us like that, but it's in the name, Bidenomics. It's not for us. It's for him. It's working.
All right. Thank you, Brian. That was creepy. Real quick, Craig, out on the road. What you got, Craig? What's on your mind?
The gentleman that referred to the truck drivers driving slowly, in heavy traffic, we do that for your safety, not ours.
All right. Duly noted. And on that note, we'll pause. We'll do this again in 1 hour. If you didn't get through, then try again when we do this at 5:35. Right now, it's 50 minutes past the hour of 4 o'clock on Super Talk.
Hey folks, I'm Paul Winkler. One of the biggest decisions people have to make in retirement is how to take Social Security. You'll get all kinds of workshops about that, and you'll see all kinds of things about that particular topic. Because Social Security, for some people, it might be a third or even more of their income in retirement. So you want to get this decision right. Well, how do you make the decision? Well, one of the things we look at, there are programs we use. This is one of the simpler programs that we use right here. And I want to just show you how it works and how it actually unravels some of the misconceptions we have about Social Security. So we have two people here, they're age 60, and they're looking at filing for Social Security. One person has a retirement benefit of $2,500. That is their main benefit from Social Security at their full retirement age. The other one has a $500 benefit. And what we can do here, which is kind of cool, is look at this and say, okay, well, what if we have this person has that life expectancy and that person has that life expectancy there? And then what we do is we assume a certain cost of living increase in Social Security. What would be the optimal for taking the benefit where they get the most benefit or the most bang from their buck? And where we see the star, that shows that we would have the best benefit. Now, this is one person filing at age 67, the other person at age 70. Well, a lot of people think, well, I retire, I have to take Social Security at the same time that I retire, and that's not necessarily the case. As you can see here, one may take it at one age and one may take it at another, even though they're the same age right now. Now, the other thing we can do is say, well, what if I took it early? What if I took it at this particular age right here, where one person's 65 and the other one's 65? You can actually see how much it could cost in benefits. When we do this, we can see how much it might cost us and how much it might affect us negatively to do that. Now, the other thing we can do is we can play around the life expectancies, and we say, well, if this person lives to that age, now the cost is $187,000 in this particular example, taking it at that age right there. So you can see, based on your own life expectancy, and typically people will say, well, what did my parents live to, and come up with that type of data. So this is just part of the financial planning process that we use at Paul Winkler Inc. If you want to know more about what we do, you can get a free 15-minute phone call at our website, paulwinkler.com. We do financial planning, full financial planning. We do investing, education, and investing. We actually help people through those decisions, helping them set up their 401ks and those types of decisions, as well as risk management. But we don't get paid on commission. That's what makes us so different from other firms out there that do what we do. So if you want to find out more, go to paulwinkler.com.
Shelter-in-place order lifted in Lewiston, Maine as search continues for mass shooting suspect. Tensions on the rise in the Middle East, plus thievery in Tennessee. Those stories and more coming up at 5 o'clock. Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Well, gentlemen, I don't know where you're going to be tomorrow night at about 10:30, but I know where I'm going to be. I'm going to be sitting in front of my television because our friend and a man we really like a lot, Nate Bargatze, is going to be hosting Saturday Night Live. Yeah.
Sweet.
Yeah, and by the way, the Tennessean does a nice write-up on all of this, and they have a picture of him back in the days when he worked for the West Wilson Utility District.
Wow.
Flashback.
Yeah,
Okay.
worked for the water company. That's what he. But no, and so it's going to be a good show. And I did reach out to him. I didn't hear back. I mean, he's got to be like crazy busy this week.
I'm sure.
So,
Yeah.
hopefully, maybe we'll get him after the SNL appearance to see, if he has any stories to tell us about behind the scenes
good.
at
Yeah,
SNL.
that'd be
Wouldn't
cool.
that be good? Yeah. All right, 58 minutes now past the hour, 4 o'clock on Super Talk. Let me tell you about T. King Insurance, and they have a question for you. Do you have replacement cost coverage on your roof? If the answer is no, if it's not yes, then you don't. That means the insurance company will depreciate how much they pay for your roof claim. That could leave you spending thousands of dollars out of pocket. Now, that's the kind of thing that you get when you have an independent agency like King & Associates. They've been doing this in Brentwood for some 25 years. I think having an independent agency has a lot of advantages. They can weed out the non-competitive insurance companies, and they can actually search around company to company to company to find that policy that fits your exact need. They're not going to try to take a square peg and pound it into a round hole. They're going to give you something that better meets your need, and by the way, probably at a better price than anything you could have possibly found on your own. And then the other thing is customer service. I mean, have you ever tried to get somebody on the line if you go to like one of those big internet companies that sell insurance? It takes forever. I mean, but if you call this number, 615-329-8121, you won't reach a call center. You're going to reach an actual person every single time. You're not going to be sitting there listening to that recording. This call is very important to us. If it was important, they'd have somebody answer it, right? Well, listen, there's a lot of other things you need to know. Multi-policy discounts can save you 20, 25, 30, 35%. And they can give you all of the things that will save you money and give you better coverage for the dollar. A lot of bang for your buck. Get your royal review with King & Associates Insurance. Log on to tkinginsurance.com. Again, tkinginsurance.com. King Insurance & Associates, royal treatment and really great rates.
.501, I'm Mac Maury with your top story. 75 degrees, a cloudy day on Music Row. Showers expected over the weekend. Latest traffic report, a weather forecast on the way in 5 minutes. The latest on the manhunt for the Lewiston, Maine mass shooting suspect. Here's Chuck Sievertson.
Breaking news in the manhunt for the suspected shooter in Wednesday night's deadly massacre in Lewiston, Maine. They haven't found the man yet, Robert Card, but local officials and police have lifted orders for people in Lewiston and 3 neighboring towns to stay at home locked indoors. Hunting is prohibited starting tomorrow in the 4 towns. One of the targets Wednesday was a bar and grill hosting a community event for the local deaf network. Elizabeth McCarthy's son Eric is a part of that community and says she brought him to her home for the weekend in order to help him cope with the shooting, where she says he knew several of the victims.
Like I said, we can deal with this one day at a time. You come up, hang out with me, and I got chickens and bunnies, and figured I could help him get me rake leaves and get his mind to settle down a little bit.
Card is wanted for allegedly killing 18 people and injuring another 13 others in that mass shooting at the restaurant and at a bowling alley in Lewiston, Maine.
And the suspect's sister initially believed that a possible motive for the shooting could be Card's ex-girlfriend. And tensions growing in the Middle East as American troops are once again a target. More from him to win at the White House.
Fewer than 12 hours after U.S. airstrikes hit two facilities in Syria used by Iran and its proxies to launch at least 19 attacks on American troops in the region, a one-way suicide drone targeted U.S. forces in western Iraq, according to U.S. officials. U.S. forces engaged the unmanned drone and shot it down a few kilometers from the base, officials say, adding the attack was likely launched by Iran-backed militants. The White House says they were protecting U.S. forces and that these incidents are not related to the Israel-Hamas conflict.
And in that Israel-Hamas conflict, it's suspected that the IDF will begin expanding ground activity in Gaza later tonight. In some crime in Tennessee, Fox 17 says that the Metro Police are trying to identify two people accused of stealing from a man at a Nashville bar. A man's Rolex, phone, and wallet were stolen, and his credit cards were used to purchase gift cards. The victim, a female at a bar, brought her back to his hotel room. When he woke up in the morning, he noticed several things were missing. His bank cards had been used. If anyone has any information, they're asked to call Crime Stoppers. That's the latest news. Traffic and weather on the way. I'm Mac Morey, WTN News.
Good afternoon, everybody. 7 minutes now past the hour of 5 o'clock. I'm Brian Wilson, your friend and radio buddy, and you're listening to The Drive on a Friday. Hope you're doing well. Hope you're getting home safely, and all that, so that you get home, you'll get, if you listen here for a little while, you'll pick up all kinds of news and information. You'll be able to be chatty at the dinner table. You know, you can sit there and have things to contribute to the conversation. And I hope that you will take advantage of that opportunity. Now, a reminder, 5:35, we'll do a Fone Ur FARB Friday round 2, which is really my favorite part of the week. So if you have something on your mind, get your thoughts together. We want you to be cogent, coherent, concise. Get to the point. Okay. Now, we often on this program have been talking, it's been something, it's you know, at one point, I think we've all stopped to think a little bit about whether or not we might ever drive an electric car. And you know, I think I was intrigued with the idea initially, but the more I study it and the more I read about it, it seems as if this is just not the right solution for me. And a lot of people I talk to come to the same conclusion, that they don't really want an electric car. And it seems that until recently, all the major car manufacturers were headed that way. I mean, the idea was we're going to have electric cars, and that's going to be the major thing that you'll be able to drive going forward. In fact, they were starting to do away with their internal combustion engines. Anything that had an internal combustion engine, they were phasing out, and they were going to replace it with electric cars, to the point, and the Biden administration's pushing hard on this. That's what they want. They want you in an electric car, which is why they're doing everything they can to make the cost of oil and gasoline and diesel very, very expensive. But here's just one problem. All of these companies made all of these announcements about moving toward electric cars, and the American people have said in time after time after time, by voting with their dollars, that they don't want them. And now we're hearing major announcements that are coming from major car companies where they're having to say, you know what, if we can't sell them, we're not going to make them. And they're rethinking whether or not there will be electric cars in your future. From today's headlines, ripped from today's headlines, here it is. Ford, their shares fall 10% after earnings underline worries about cost and EV plans. Shares of Ford Motor Company, according to CNBC, traded sharply lower Friday after the company reported earnings that missed estimates and said that demand for electric vehicles was falling short of expectations. Third quarter results after the markets closed, they weren't to what Wall Street had expected. Ford revenue and profit both fell short of analyst estimates. They attributed it to lost production following the strike, but also it's about electric cars. Ford said its plans to delay about $12 billion in previously announced spending on EV manufacturing capacity. It's going to delay it, saying that customers in North America are no longer willing to pay a premium for EV vehicles versus a comparable internal combustion or hybrid alternative. Executives emphasized Ford isn't cutting back on or delaying its plans to develop a range of more advanced EVs. Investors concerned about the company's ability to compete with Tesla and other new EV entrants was a reason for cause. And Ford also withdrew its previous financial guidance for 2023 in light of the pending deal with the UAW. So they are delaying, the headline there really, delaying about $12 billion in previously announced spending on EV manufacturing capacity. Here's from Business Insider. And it's a very comprehensive, it looks beyond Ford. At earnings this week, several auto execs pulled back on EV targets. Dealers have been warning of slowing EV demand for months. It's a pretty brutal space, said the chief financial officer of Mercedes-Benz this week. with signs of growing inventory. In other words, when you say growing inventory, it means they've got a lot of them on the lots that aren't moving, and slowing sales. Auto industry executives admitted this week that their ambitious electric vehicle plans are in jeopardy, at least in the near term. Some of the biggest car makers voiced fresh unease about the electric car market growth as concerns over the viability of these vehicles put their multi-billion-dollar electrification strategies at risk. Among those hand-wringing is GM's Mary Barra, historically one of the automotive industry's most bullish CEOs on the future of electric vehicles. GM has been an early mover in the electric car market, selling the Chevrolet Bolt for 7 years and making bold claims about a fully electric future for the company long before its competitors got on board. But this week, on GM's third quarter earnings call, Barra and GM struck a more sober tone. The company announced with its quarter results that it's abandoning targets to build 100,000 EVs in the second half of this year and another 400,000 by the first months of 2024. GM says they don't know now when they will ever hit those targets. As we get further into the transformation to EV, it's a bit bumpy, she said. GM, Mercedes, now Ford. Inventory is building up at dealerships, much to the chagrin of dealers. While car buyers are in luck if they're looking for a deal on a plug-in vehicle, executives are finding even significant markdowns and discounts aren't enough to move them off the lot. And by the way, they take a big loss on every one of these electric vehicles because they are still in development. The cars are taking dealers longer to sell compared with their gas counterparts as the next wave of buyers focus on cost, infrastructure challenges, and lifestyle barriers to adopting. I think that's the big one. I mean, cost, yes. I mean, it's expensive to buy an electric car, even if they're losing money on them, and even with the markdowns, they're still expensive. And then it gets down to, the other things like making sure that that you can do the things you want to do. Wow. Ford was the first to fold after dealers started turning away the Mach-E's, which is it's supposed to be a Mustang. It's not a Mustang. It doesn't look anything like a Mustang. It looks like a hatchback. But dealers can't sell them. I mean, they were hot when they first came out. A few people, really early adopters, really wanted one. And they're, by the way, a very fast car. But people are turning away from them now. They can't sell them. The company extended its self-imposed deadline to hit annual electric vehicle production of 600,000 by a year and abandon a 2026 target to sell and build 2 million EVs. Honda CEO says that they are shifting their thinking on this. The one company that has never been big on going electric is Toyota. And Toyota Motor Chairman Akio Toyoda said that Toyota has been skeptical of the peers' pure electric blueprints and has been saying for some time now that they simply are not going to move that direction very quickly. Everybody's now coming back to the Toyota position. Okay, so now then there's this. If you get an electric car, there's a pretty good chance it will not do the things that they tell you it will do. The Justice Department is now probing Tesla over potentially misleading driving range claims. A test of Tesla's Model Y revealed it had achieved just 57% of the claimed driving range in cold weather conditions. Let me read a little deeper into this. Justice Department investigating electric vehicle global leader Tesla on multiple issues, including the driving range of its vehicles, which is alleged to drop significantly in low temperatures. In a recent filing with the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission, they asked him for all kinds of information. Tesla EVs have been shown to perform lower than claimed when it comes to driving ranges, according to listen to this, a July report by nonprofit Consumer Reports. We found temperatures can have a big impact on EV range. But Tesla stands out for coming up short on claimed range no matter the weather. The test looked at how EVs responded in frigid, mild, and warm weather. Among Tesla's EVs, Consumer Reports tested the Model Y, which they claim has a range of 326 miles on a full charge. However, the vehicle did not register near the EPA range in 3 environmental conditions. In warm weather, Tesla's Model Y had a range of 274 miles. That was the highest out of 3 ranges, so it does better in warm weather. In mild weather, the range dropped to 252 miles, and in cold weather, it dropped further to 186 miles, which is 57% of what it said in the EPA estimate that it would be able to do. It's a little, it goes about half as far as they said it would. In January, the Korean Fair Trade Commission announced they had fined Tesla and won for failing to inform consumers that its vehicles had shorter ranges when operating at low temperatures. Tesla's exaggerated driving ranges of its cars on a single charge, the fuel cost effectiveness compared to gasoline vehicles as well. I mean, that's it. I mean, the whole idea is everybody says, well, it's cheaper to do if, to drive an electric car than it is to have an EV. You can drive a lot cheaper on the EV. Well, not if you get in about half the range. It really gets to the point where they're about pretty equal. And in fact, when you figure the elevated cost and the harassment and the hassles of having to find charging stations when you're on a trip, that's the big thing I think is really going to really be the downfall of EVs. I mean, if I wanted to take my most common trip is to go from Nashville down to South Walton County, Florida, to go to the beach, okay? I still go down there occasion. And so that's what, it's about 400 miles or so. A little over 400 miles to go down there. If I have to stop 3/4 of the way to charge, I've got to find a place to charge, and I've got to find 40 minutes to do it in. Because that's to get an 80% charge, if you've got the right kind of charger, takes about 40 minutes. What am I going to do for 40 minutes? 40 minutes, if I had a gas car, I could whip into a gas station, put a few gallons of gas in it, and be there in short order. I could be there by the time the electric car got charged. Pretty close. So, it just doesn't work out for a lot of people. And I think so many people are now coming to the conclusion. What's interesting is now all of the major car manufacturers in America are largely coming to the conclusion that America is not ready for an EV. It just seems that nobody has told the Biden administration this yet. By the way, I'm looking to see whether or not Blue Oval City is on delay. They say no. They say they are going to begin construction as scheduled in 2025, and that they are not, at this time, contemplating that date will change. These are largely battery factories, and that's where they really need to put in a lot of effort to get these batteries where they will go further and are more reliable and cheaper, because that's the real expense of an electric vehicle. 21 minutes now past the hour of 5 o'clock. D.T. McCall, a company that's been around here for about 100 years, more than a century. How do you make it that long? Well, you make it that long by having a good reputation, of treating people right and fairly, and giving them good products at a good price. And all those things apply to the good people at D.T. McCall and Sons. If you need appliances, boom, and they got them. And a big selection. You need furniture, they've got them. A big, big selection. You need a mower, you need whatever it is you need for your home. Chances are you're going to find it at D.T. McCall. And they will always treat you fairly. As I said, they'll give you a good price, which is, incidentally, an honest price. They don't play the games that the big box stores play. Maybe you've purchased an appliance and seen the little game that they play from a big box store where they they charge you extra for the delivery and the setup and the haul away and all the cords and hoses or things that you need to make them work. And you find out that price they quoted you, which initially looked good, turns out not to be so good. And whenever possible, DT McCall sells products that are made and manufactured in Middle Tennessee. I mean, England furniture, you might think it's made in England. It's actually made right here in Tennessee. DT McCall's is a place where you can go and get the stuff you need for your home, and you're going to be treated right. If you want to find out about their 5 convenient locations, just go to their website, dtmccalls.com.
Hey everybody, Dan Mattis with Nashville's Morning News on WTN. I'm here at the Nashville Rescue Mission doing the interviews that I look forward to doing every single year. These are incredible stories of people who have had amazing recoveries. Thanks to this amazing facility, they are able to get clean and lead a more productive life. The date of our annual radiothon is going to be Monday, November 20th. Listen in and please donate. You can get more information at 99.7 WTN, including a link to the website for Nashville's Rescue Mission.
The search for the Lewiston, Maine shooting suspect continues. 2 men fatally shot in Germantown this afternoon, and a major financial milestone for a musical star that we all know. That and more coming up. 5:30 Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
It's time for Mac Morey's Wide World of Sports.
Spanning the globe to bring you the constant variety of sport, the thrill of victory, and the agony of defeat.
And now here is the host of our program. You know him, you love him, you can't live without him. The one, the only, Mac Morey, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh, yeah. Big crowd on a Friday. I think it's a big crowd because they know what we're talking about today, Brian. They know what's going on.
Yeah, they do know what's going on. So let's get into it.
I don't know what's going on. What's going on?
Titans are back. Oh.
They still play? They haven't quit yet?
No, they're not quitting yet. No. Sorry, Brian. What'd you say?
No, go ahead, please. No.
2-4 on the season are the Titans that they just had their bye week, kind of trying to get back re-centered, refreshed, and they are coming home to Nissan on Sunday to play the Atlanta Falcons, another team that's maybe the record doesn't show it at 4-3, or 3-4, but they've struggled much more than that. This is a team that the Titans could win, and I want to get to the final result of that game and some things to look out for. But just as Titans fans, this is a big Sunday because trade deadline's on Tuesday. Now, star safety, mayor of Murfreesboro, community, I don't know if I want to say hero, but community icon in Nashville, Kevin Byard, got traded to the Philadelphia Eagles. He's gone, and he could be that first domino to fall. Sunday night into Monday and Tuesday morning, those 48-ish hours are going to be imperative to a lot of NFL teams. But the one that a lot of people are watching is the two-tone balloon, is the Tennessee Titans, because they're one of those teams that could be selling a lot of pieces. Danico Autry, DeAndre Hopkins, and Derrick Henry are all names to watch out for. So to watch them play could be their last time in the two-tone blue, and it's going to be a good game. Now let's get to what to watch for against this Atlanta Falcons team. This is a defense in the Atlanta Falcons. Past 3 seasons, struggled, bottom 10 in the league in pretty much every category. They've gotten a lot of draft picks. They're a younger team, kind of like the Tennessee Titans in some facets, but they've really worked their way on the defensive side. Pass rush continues to get better. They've got a cornerback in A.J. Terrell. That's a complete stud. He's going to wipe out the number 1 receiver in Hopkins, or at least try to. He's that good. He's really solid. And then they've got some linebackers that fly around the field as well. And you look at the offensive end, Bijan Robinson, the first running back taken in the draft. He was a top 10 pick. And he's an absolute beast. He's like the next Derrick Henry, per se. He's going to be the next lead running back in the league. But you look at their quarterback, Desmond Ridder, 6 interceptions, 5 fumbles lost. This is a quarterback that doesn't know how to take care of the football. He fumbled 3 times inside the 10-yard line last week.
Wow.
Last week. He lost 2 of them, but he fumbled 3 times within the 10-yard line in the red zone. This is a guy that doesn't take care of the football. And we know the Titans have a defense that can really fly around. Now, I have not done this, and this is a scary time to do this for a Tennessee Titans season that maybe hasn't gone as well as we all have hoped. But right here on Mac's Wide World of Sports on this Friday, boys, I am guaranteeing a Titans win. Guarantee it. This is the Houston Oilers uniforms are going to be back in action on this Sunday. Get ready for a classic look. They're going to be hyped up. All the Titans stars are going to be at this game. All those Titans alumni, the Ring of Honor members, are going to be showing up on the sidelines. You're going to have those players hyped up to show off for some legends. Titans are winning this game.
Who's going to be under center, though? Have they confirmed?
There's a good question.
Great point. Yeah, we should probably talk about our quarterback. So Ryan Tannehill is confirmed out, and it's going to be Will Levis under center. Now, they've talked about rotating. And I think really, so I've talked to some guys at the Zone. I think it's going to be when they rotate and put in the other quarterback, Malik Willis, it's going to be for running packages and trick plays.
Yeah.
Will Levis is going to be the guy throwing the pigskin on Sunday, and that's the second-round draft pick. He was, talked about being maybe a top 10 draft pick. He fell for a few different reasons, and the Titans took him in that second round. It's going to be the first time to see him in a regular season action on Sunday. That's exciting.
Yeah, it is. You want to make a game score prediction?
Let's go 2017. Close, little ugly at times.
Okay.
Will Levis shows some flashes. The defense comes in, and Desmond Ridder has his trademark turnover at the end of the game.
All right. We'll mark that. Would you
Mark
please?
it down.
We'll play that back on Monday. It's now 31 minutes past the hour. Mac Maury takes off his sports hat, puts on his news hat, because news is next on Super Talk.
.531, I'm Mac Maury with your top story. 74 degrees, a cloudy day in the mid-state. Expecting more of that over the weekend with possible showers likely each day into Monday. Full weather forecast, latest traffic report on the way in 5 minutes. Authorities around Lewiston, Maine continue to search for the suspect in Wednesday's deadly mass shootings. Derek Dennis is there.
Around Lewiston and surrounding areas, some traffic is returning, but businesses are still closed with a shelter-in-place order still in effect. Though Shannon, a manager at Papa John's Pizza, is busy.
The only reason why we're here was to clean our store, and then we've sent over 500 pizzas out to first responders.
Otherwise, it's like a COVID-19 lockdown. Sean Donahue lives near where dive teams are searching the Androscoggin River for clues or even the body of suspect Robert Card.
It's hard on everybody.
He's hoping Card is found soon, dead or alive.
And right now in Nashville, 2 men fatally shot in Germantown this afternoon near a housing complex. Don Aaron, spokesman for NMPD, said the men were in an argument near a dumpster. This was on Rosa Parks Boulevard, and they both shot at each other. There was no more information that's been released quite yet. In some entertainment news, a major financial milestone for Taylor Swift. Jason Nathanson.
Who's the latest billionaire? It's me. Taylor Swift, a member of the 3 Comma Club, according to an analysis of her finances by Bloomberg News. They say the success of her Eras tour and its accompanying concert film helped push her net worth to $1.1 billion, and they claim that estimate is conservative, based only on what's public, including the estimated value of her music catalog, 5 homes, and earnings from music sales and streaming deals. And she stands to add a lot more to her bank account. The Eras tour hasn't even started its international leg yet.
And that is the latest news, traffic and weather on the way. I'm Mac Morey, WTN News.
All right, how are you faring in this rough and tumble market? I mean, it's up one day, down the next. The experts at Beacon Capital Management say, well, it can be scary, but they have a plan to assess where you are and help you make any mid-course corrections that might be needed. I mean, honestly, when's the last time you looked at your investments? Maybe it's not a big thing. Maybe it's a minor mid-course correction. Whatever it is, you need to make sure that you're getting the very most you can get out of your retirement dollars and the investments you're making. Wouldn't it be great to have a peace of mind that you're on the right path? Beacon can provide that reassurance. Starts with a phone call to this number. And I'll give it to you several times, so get a pencil if you want to write it down. 615-488-9303. That's 615-488-9303. Now, you dial that number, you'll get a hold of a person at Beacon who will ask you a few questions, take some information. You have really nothing to lose in this except for all the worry. Doesn't cost you a penny to have the assessment. That's right. Replace the worry with confidence you're on the right path. 615-488-9303. The experts at Beacon stand ready to take your stress away. Learn more at askbeaconnow.com. 38 minutes now past the hour of 5 o'clock. That it is time once again for what my favorite segment of the week, a little thing we like to call Fone Ur FARB Friday. Yeah, here's the number, 615-737-9986 or 615-737-WWTN. This is your opportunity to climb up on our 100,000-watt soapbox and express yourself. I'm within boundaries because it is a family show, all right? Maybe you have a bee in your bonnet. Maybe you have a burr under your saddle, or maybe you have a bug in a place where I hope you never, ever, 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 ever have a bug. Anyway, 615-737-9986. Listen, maybe you want to take umbrage with something you heard. Maybe you heard a story and you think, well, I have something I want to say about that nonsense. 615-737-9986. We got a lot of phone lines open today. Get busy, folks. We want to hear what's on your mind. And you could also, if you have a question, sometimes people have questions. And sometimes I might even know the answer. 615-737-9986. Start with Ross in Nashville. Ross, good afternoon. You're on with Brian on the drive.
Hello, Brian. I'm going to tell you what I'm mad about. It's a bunch of fools, which are, to a large extent, communists, have melted a statue of Robert E. Lee in Virginia. Did you hear about that?
I did see that story this morning. I did indeed.
He was a general, one of the greatest gentlemen who's ever lived. One of my friends says in his life, Lee is second to Jesus. He's been that well thought of. He was a general, and he was not responsible for slavery. I'll tell you who was responsible for slavery. It was the blacks themselves. The Portuguese were trying to figure out a way to get to the Far East because that's where you could get spices and rugs and all the great things that came from China and India. And they were sailing around Africa trying to figure out how to get around the Cape. And they did actually capture maybe a boatload of Africans, but there were no maps of Africa. And as they ended up landing along the coast, they asked the Africans, what have you got to sell? Have you got any spices or rugs or anything like that, jewelry, silk? And the Africans said, no, we've got people for sale.
Well,
So
I don't want to relitigate history, but I am with you about the Robert E. Lee statue. Let me just say this about that. I think if we don't pay attention to our history and both the good things and the bad things that happen in history, then we're liable to revisit those things. We need to be aware of our history. And I don't like anything that decimates something that has happened. It happened. You can't change what has happened. You can change going forward, but you can't change things that have happened in the past. And, this seemed rather spiteful, actually, to take a statue like that had already been taken down. It had already been removed from public view. And to go the extra mile of saying we're going to melt it into one big solid block of metal seems to me to be rather vindictive. Ross, thank you for the call. Kip in Carthage. Kip, you're on with Brian on the drive. What do you say, Kip?
Okay. I want to know if the statute of limitations has expired for the crime that Nancy Pelosi committed when she tore up President Trump's State of the Union address.
I don't know that that's a crime because it was a copy. It wasn't, I don't know if that was the official copy. I think the official copy is handed to the House clerk. And I think copies are handed up to the speaker and then the vice president, of course, who's usually there next to the speaker. I don't know that you could call that a crime. It was certainly bad behavior. I mean, really just reprehensible behavior on the part of Nancy Pelosi. So childish, really. But I don't know that you could call it a crime. And if so, no, the statute of limitations, if it were a crime, the statute of limitations would not have yet expired. Russell out on the road. Hey, Russell, you're on with Brian on the drive. What's on your mind there, Russell?
Hey, Brian, I just got a quick question.
Okay.
We got a new House Speaker, and I just wondering when we're going to actually go after the Biden crime family and actually get them instead of just talking about it.
Well, they're doing. I did hear. I have a little clip here. I could play a little bit of it. He says, "Look, we have to do it, according to the rule of law."
Other high crimes and misdemeanors, bribery is listed there, and it looks and smells a lot like that. And I think the evidence, we're going to follow the truth where it leads. We're going to engage in due process because, again, we're the rule of law party. I know people are getting anxious and they're getting restless and they just want somebody to be impeached, but that's not. We don't do that like the other team. We have to base it upon the evidence, and the evidence is coming together. We'll see where it leads.
I will say that I follow this story very closely, and it seems that the House Oversight Committee, House Judiciary Committee, and others are getting pretty close here. I mean, getting the bank records of Hunter Biden, the personal bank records of Hunter Biden, the personal bank records of James Biden have raised some really interesting questions about a special amount of money that went from James Biden's account, $200,000, into Joe Biden's account, and we know it. And the reason for that has not yet been explained. So there are some really good questions, and as the speaker said, it's starting to smell like bribery here. But I admire the fact that we're trying to do this the way it should be done, not just for political reasons, to actually have evidence. Thank you for the call, Russell. Rat on the road. Hello, Rat. You're on with Brian on the drive. What's up?
Hey, Brian, I'd like to take umbrage with Brian of the last segment about those truck drivers.
So there was a guy that called earlier who got everybody all riled up, saying that truck drivers are merging and they don't get on it and they're driving too slow and they're causing problems on the road. What's your point?
Well, I've been out here as a professional driver for 40 years, over 4 million miles, and I'm asking Brian to get out here and ride with a professional, and it takes a little while to get 80,000 pounds up to speed, and it takes a little bit of distance to stop 80,000 pounds. We don't have the acceleration that someone in a four-wheeler, what we call four-wheeler, their automobile has.
Right. Well, I think you make a very good point. I do have an appreciation for the size of vehicle that you're driving. I have driven one. I'm not never certified, but I have driven an 18-wheeler, and it's quite a challenge. It's a lot more intimidating than you might think it is. I have a lot of admiration for people who do that for a living. I really do. And listen, by the way, we have a tradition here on this program. When truck drivers call in, they have to honk their horn for you. So will you do that for me?
I know what the tradition is, buddy.
All right. Thank you, Rat. Call back anytime. By the way, got some open lines here, 615-737-9986. Let's talk to Barbara in Franklin. Barbara, you're on with Brian on the drive. What's on your mind?
Hey, Brian. I just wonder if it had ever been disclosed who was counseling the Covenant shooter.
I don't think that has been disclosed. We do know that the Covenant shooter was going through some counseling, but we don't know. I don't think I've ever heard the name mentioned.
It's been so hush-hush. I have just always wondered if that was one reason why everything was covered up, and that the parents the parents and, the church didn't want that disclosed.
I'll tell you what I think. And again, I don't have anything hard to go on here. It's sort of a gut feeling. The one thing that's different about this particular mass shooting was that the people who entered the case, the families, the parents, the school, the church. What's interesting about this is the shooter was a student at that school at one point. and that the writings are not just what was found in the car, but the writings also included things that were found at home. And apparently there were many notebooks filled with the writings that go back many years. And they were all found in the home. What about her history at that school might be revealed in those writings? Would that have something to do with why everybody's so up in arms about making sure this stuff never comes out? Because otherwise, this would be a very simple thing. It would be out, and we would know everything there is to know about it, and it would all be over. Would have been over a long time ago. There is a case pending right now. Arguments have been made before an appeals court that the parents and the students, under the strictures of the law, did not have the right to intervene, but the judge allowed it anyway. The question is, will that stand or will it not? If they are taken out as interveners, this thing might move forward in a more quick way. Thank you for the call. Johnny, Chapel Hill. Johnny, you're on with Brian on the drive. What do you say, Johnny?
How you doing, sir?
I'm all right. What's up?
We're talking about this Biden family and their criminal activities. There's nobody, and there's tons of people want to get them caught. But the government is not going to do a dadgum thing to these people. They're going to let Biden and that whole bunch just slip by. They're not going to do nothing.
You don't think that there will be, that the impeachment is going to go forward?
No, sir. You watch and see it. They won't do nothing to Biden, his son, or his brother. Nothing but crooks. But you let me do something wrong, I'm the first one to go to jail.
No. It doesn't seem like there's an equal application of the law in America today if you have a D behind your name or a family of influence in the Democrat Party. You're right. It's frustrating. But I can't tell you that I think the Justice Department is going to take action, but I like what I see out of the House of Representatives. We'll watch it. Thank you so much. Great calls today. Greatly appreciate it. It is now 50 minutes past the hour of 5 o'clock.
Hey folks, I'm Paul Winkler. One of the biggest decisions people have to make in retirement is how to take Social Security. You'll get all kinds of workshops about that, and you'll see all kinds of things about that particular topic. Because Social Security, for some people, it might be a third or even more of their income in retirement. So you want to get this decision right. Well, how do you make the decision? Well, one of the things we look at, there are programs we use. This is one of the simpler programs that we use right here. And I want to just show you how it works and how it actually unravels some of the misconceptions we have about Social Security. So we have two people here, they're age 60, and they're looking at filing for Social Security. One person has a retirement benefit of $2,500. That is their main benefit from Social Security at their full retirement age.
Let me talk to you about United Structural Systems, a company that can help you with waterproofing or foundation issues at your home. Have you got them? Well, this is a company that you want to reach out to. 25,000 satisfied residential customers. They'll come out to your house. They'll take a look at what's going on. They'll give you their best judgment, and they'll tell you how to make the thing better. And then it's up to you. If you decide to go forward, you don't pay a penny until the job is done and you're completely satisfied. And I have a lot of people who have been satisfied in their dealings with USS. Here's Jerry. This is the best crew we have ever had do work on our house. Here is Constance. An excellent experience. The entire crew was professional and knowledgeable about their services, put me at ease during the entire process. Here's Jeffrey. The service was A+++. On top of all that, the work they did actually solved my problem. What kind of recommendations? I mean, these are great. This is what you need right here. Keeping your home dry and stable, guaranteeing their best. USS serving Middle Tennessee, Southern Kentucky, Western Kentucky, Northern Alabama. Online at USSTN.com, 615-488-7855.
Hey folks, I'm Paul Winkler. One of the biggest decisions people have to make in retirement is how to take Social Security. You'll get all kinds of workshops about that, and you'll see all kinds of things about that particular topic. Because Social Security, for some people, it might be a third or even more of their income in retirement. So you want to get this decision right. Well, how do you make the decision? Well, one of the things we look at, there are programs we use. This is one of the simpler programs that we use right here. And I want to just show you how it works and how it actually unravels some of the misconceptions we have about Social Security. So we have two people here, they're age 60, and they're looking at filing for Social Security. One person has a retirement benefit of $2,500. That is their main benefit from Social Security at their full retirement age. The other one has a $500 benefit. And what we can do here, which is kind of cool, is look at this and say, okay, well, what if we have this person has that life expectancy and that person has that life expectancy there? And then what we do is we assume a certain cost of living increase in Social Security. What would be the optimal for taking the benefit where they get the most benefit or the most bang from their buck? And where we see the star, that shows that we would have the best benefit. Now, this is one person filing at age 67, the other person at age 70. Well, a lot of people think, well, I retire, I have to take Social Security at the same time that I retire, and that's not necessarily the case. As you can see here, one may take it at one age and one may take it at another, even though they're the same age right now. Now, the other thing we can do is say, well, what if I took it early? What if I took it at this particular age right here, where one person's 65 and the other one's 65? You can actually see how much it could cost in benefits. When we do this, we can see how much it might cost us and how much it might affect us negatively to do that. Now, the other thing we can do is we can play around the life expectancies, and we say, well, if this person lives to that age, now the cost is $187,000 in this particular example, taking it at that age right there. So you can see, based on your own life expectancy, and typically people will say, well, what did my parents live to, and come up with that type of data. So this is just part of the financial planning process that we use at Paul Winkler Inc. If you want to know more about what we do, you can get a free 15-minute phone call at our website, paulwinkler.com. We do financial planning, full financial planning. We do investing education and investing. We actually help people through those decisions, helping them set up their 401ks and those types of decisions, as well as risk management. But we don't get paid on commission. That's what makes us so different from other firms out there that do what we do. So if you want to find out more, go to paulwinkler.com.
6 o'clock, I'm Mac Maury with your top stories. Cloudy, 74 degrees. Scattered showers likely across Middle Tennessee over the weekend. Forecast and the latest traffic report headed your way in 5 minutes. The latest on the manhunt for the Lewiston, Maine mass shooting that happened on Wednesday night. Chuck Sievertston.
People in Lewiston, Maine and 3 neighboring towns no longer are ordered to lock themselves indoors, though the manhunt for Robert Card, the suspected mass shooter, continues. About 500 tips have come to police, says Commissioner of Public Safety Mike Shawchuk.
Law enforcement has not seen him in the last 2 days. But again, in that stack of that 500 plus, you may have somebody that says, hey, we see somebody that looks like that. So we have not.
The police official says the search is on land and in a river where Card's car was found near a boat launch. Lewiston Strong signs are popping up around the community. Alex McMahon has been making and hanging them.
People mourn in different ways. So a lot of people are mourning differently. And for me, I want to be here doing something for my community to try to uplift everybody.
A pizza shop in Lewiston, Maine is open. They say they have sent over 500 pizzas out to first responders.
And the suspect's sister initially believed that the possible motive for the shooting could be his ex-girlfriend. Tensions growing right now in the Middle East, and American troops are once again a target. Im Nguyen with more from the White House.
Fewer than 12 hours after U.S. airstrikes hit 2 facilities in Syria used by Iran and its proxies to launch at least 19 attacks on American troops in the region, a one-way suicide drone targeted U.S. forces in western Iraq, according to U.S. officials. U.S. forces engaged the unmanned drone and shot it down a few kilometers from the base, officials say, adding the attack was likely launched by Iran-backed militants. The White House says they were protecting U.S. forces and that these incidents are not related to the Israel-Hamas conflict.
And in that Israel-Hamas conflict, it's expected that the IDF will begin expanding ground activity in Gaza later tonight. Crime right now in Tennessee. Fox 17 says that the Metro Police are trying to identify 2 people accused of stealing from a man at a Nashville bar. His Rolex, phone, and wallet were stolen. His credit cards were used to purchase gift cards. The victim met a female at a bar, brought her back to his hotel room. Then he woke up the next morning and he noticed several things were missing and his bank cards had been used. If anyone has any information, they're asked to call Crime Stoppers. Some money news. The average cost of a gallon of gasoline falling for the 5th consecutive week. Several factors could send prices even lower in the coming weeks. And here in Middle Tennessee, the average price, $3.24 per gallon, according to Gas Buddy. That is the latest news. Traffic and weather on the way. I'm Mac Maury, WTN News.
Good evening, everybody. It is 7 minutes past the hour of 6 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7, our last hour of the day and our last hour of the week before we turn it over to Mark Levin at 7 o'clock after the news, and he'll carry on through the evening. A lot of stuff that going on around the world. I'll bring you up to speed on a few of them. Actually, it's in Maine. The big story is, of course, they're still looking for this guy who shot up the town of Lewiston and killed 18 people. They don't have a clue. I'll be honest with you. This guy's been gone now for 2 days, and they don't know where he is. They got no idea. They usually would use the cell phone to track an individual, but he left his cell phone along with a note at his home. His car was abandoned near a river, and he had access to a couple of boats, and one of the boats is missing. So, you know, when you're tracking somebody and they go into water, it's impossible to know which direction they went. How do you track beyond that? He's known to be sort of an outdoorsman, a man who knows how to hunt and fish and live off the land. And so it's entirely possible that he can stay out there for a long, long time. Apparently, the family has been there for a lot of years. They own hundreds and hundreds of acres in this little area, and he's said to know every inch of it and knows every rock to hide behind. And the woods in this area are incredibly thick. They say, you know, if you stand on the outside of the trees in a forest, you can't see but about 10 feet inside there, and that you can't walk a straight line through these woods, that they're just that thick. And although they have helicopters that can see down from above, and they have some kind of thermal imaging equipment on board, if the tree canopy is that thick, you really have a hard time seeing through it. And so it's a very difficult job for the individuals there. They're trying to do it. They look in several places at once, which suggests to me they don't have any real focus of their investigation, and which suggests to me they don't really know where the guy is. That's ongoing. Things are stepping up in Israel as Israel has now gone in a bigger way into Gaza. The reporters on the ground are saying, you know, look, we've been here a lot of nights. This is different. This is bigger. But then you have the Israeli officials to say this is not the big ground invasion, that this is sort of an incursion. The sense I'm getting from listening to these Israeli officials is that it's going to be not a matter of days or weeks, but months, that they're going to go in, do what they need to do, pull out, and then go back in and do what they need to do, and then maybe just withdraw again, and just keep doing that until they systematically root out everything that Hamas has left behind or is still surviving. They've been hit pretty hard from the air for a long time, but of course they're underground. And that's the other thing that we learned today, is that the Israelis believe that the major compound, the command and control compound for Hamas, is right underneath the largest hospital inside Gaza, maybe very deep beneath that hospital, and that there are ways to get into the underground tunnels from outside the hospital, but that there are also ways to get through the hospital into the underground compound. And by the way, if you take out the electricity to that compound, you are also taking out the electricity to the hospital, because they share those circuits there. So a difficult thing there to get at the real heart of Hamas, with them sitting literally beneath a very soft target in the form of the largest hospital. And this, it's sort of, when you think about it, honestly, the Israelis have a more difficult task here than you might imagine, in that they do care about collateral damage. They do care about innocent civilians, unlike the Hamas fighters, who just will take anybody that they see and just slay them in the most vicious and brutal way possible. So that is ongoing. And again, I think the guidance that I would have for you is, you'll hear that the incursions have stepped up. You'll hear that the Israelis have moved into Gaza. But I think that's going to be a repetitive story that we hear for maybe months. I don't think they're in any hurry at all. We have taken some action of our own in the region against Iran-backed militants in Syria. They've been firing drones and rockets at our troops that are splayed across the Middle Eastern region. We have a lot of people in that part of the world. We have them in Syria. We have them in Iraq. We have them in Kuwait. We've got them in Saudi Arabia. And we've got, of course, naval vessels out in the Mediterranean, in the Red Sea, and soon in the Persian Gulf. So, we have a lot of resources there. And these Iranian-backed militants have been taking pot shots, and they've hurt some people. And we've said from the very beginning, if you go against our people, we will retaliate. And yesterday we were wondering, when are they going to retaliate? It happened last night. U.S. fighter jets launched airstrikes early Friday on 2 locations in eastern Syria linked to Iran's Revolutionary Guard Corps, a retaliation for a slew of drone and missile attacks against U.S. bases and personnel in the region that began last week. The strikes reflect the Biden administration's determined to maintain a delicate balance. The U.S. wants to hit Iranian-backed groups suspected of targeting the U.S. as strongly as possible to deter further aggression, possibly fueled by the war with Israel against Hamas, but also working to avoid inflaming the region and provoking a wider conflict. Senior defense officials said the sites were chosen because the IRGC stores the types of munitions that were used in the strikes against U.S. bases and troops. We used a couple of, only 2, as far as I can tell, F-16 fighter jets. They struck weapons and ammunition storage areas connected to the IRGC. So there we have that. We're involved in a bigger way, but we hear from the Pentagon, we hear from the Biden administration that they're only interested really in using U.S. forces to prevent the war from widening. I mean, if Iran were to take action against Israel, they would have to go through the USS Gerald Ford strike group to do it. And you've got all of these different military assets that are splayed around the country. We got jets, we got ships, we got you name it. It's out there, but not to be used, they say, unless it is to stop the war from widening and keeping other people from entering the fray. Long as we're talking about national security issues, maybe we should stop just a moment to consider the Chinese and what they're up to. Another one of these stories, which is very scary, and if you've seen the video, it's online, you can look it up, and it is quite troubling. A Chinese fighter jet came within 10 feet of a U.S. B-52 bomber that was conducting legal routine operations over the South China Sea. This according to a statement that came late Thursday from the U.S. Indo-Pacific Command. U.S. officials said that they were concerned that the pilot was unaware of how close he came to causing a collision within 10 feet of a lumbering B-52. Now, B-52 is moving, it moves, it's jet aircraft. It's still subsonic. It's not the fastest thing on the planet. Big, lumbering, they travel in straight lines at high altitude. And this Chinese fighter jet came very, very, very close. This is the latest of more than 180 incidents that the Defense Department describes as unsafe and unprofessional between the two nations since the fall of 21. DoD says these incidents have included other behaviors that seek to impinge upon the ability of the United States and other nations to safely conduct operations where international law allows them to be operating. It was a nighttime intercept. The Chinese pilot was flying in limited visibility in a manner contrary to international safety rules and norms. And military aircraft, when intentionally approaching another, shall operate with a professional airmanship and give due regard for the safety of the other aircraft. And when you see, and they've got videotape of it, and it's very clear, they came really close to this B-52. You know, the Biden administration is going to be asking for more money for Israel and also for Ukraine. And it has given our new Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson of Louisiana, the opportunity to weigh in on how he thinks that should go. And by the way, he had a meeting at the White House, a brief meeting with the president, but also spent a couple hours over there talking to various members of the staff. You know, I guess when you become the number 3 in the line of secession, all of a sudden they have to brief you on a lot of stuff, bring you up to speed. So he went over for some of those briefings and had a moment to speak with the president he said he'd never met before. But as for this money that the Biden wants for Ukraine and Israel, they just want to lump it all together with a bunch of other stuff. And Speaker Mike Johnson is saying, nope, we're going to take this in a different way. We're going to separate those matters.
I told the staff at the White House today that our consensus among House Republicans is that we need to bifurcate those issues. The American people are demanding some real accountability for the use of those dollars. Now, we can't allow Vladimir Putin to prevail in Ukraine because I don't believe it would stop there, and it would probably encourage and empower China to perhaps make a move on Taiwan. We have these concerns. We're not going to abandon them, but we have a responsibility, a stewardship responsibility over the precious treasure of the American people. And we have to make sure that the White House is providing the people with some accountability for the dollars. And we want to know what the objective there is. What is the end game in Ukraine? The White House has not provided that. I was at the White House for a couple of hours today, and I told the staff there that this is where we are. This is where the House Republicans are. So we're going to look at Israel separately.
With that kind of money, is it America having a proxy war with Putin and Russia?
It's a great concern. We've got a group of our colleagues here in the House, led by Mike Garcia out of California, a brilliant legislator and a Top Gun pilot. And some of our veterans have gotten together. Dan Crenshaw is involved in this and others. They came up with a document that presents 12 critical questions for the White House to answer as a condition of our supplying the additional support. These are not hard questions, Sean. These are things the White House should be forthcoming about. I delivered it myself today and to the National Security Advisor, Jake Sullivan.
Did you read it?
He says he's studied.
He's going to study it tonight during the show.
Yes. So we want to be cooperative. We need to work together on this, but we owe it to the people to know what the plan is, where the money is going to be spent, and we need some auditing for the dollars that we've already sent over there. These are not tough questions, right? Mm-hmm. Israel is a separate matter. We're going to bring forward a standalone Israel funding measure over $14 billion. It's a very specific number tied to very specific measures. But here's the important thing that distinguishes House Republicans from the other team. We're going to find pay-fors in the budget. We're not just printing money to send it overseas. We're going to find the cuts elsewhere to do that.
I like that last part a lot. You know, look, you can have your feelings about whether money should go to Ukraine or not, or whether we should send more money to Israel. But if we're going to do it, let's take money out of some other area. In other words, find cuts within our budget, the money that's already been designated, and reallocate it in this direction, rather than just printing additional dollars, as he said, and sending them overseas. I like that idea. And by the way, so far, I know it's still early on. I like this new Speaker of the House. I like the way he thinks. I like it seems like his priorities are correct. Seems like, according to people who know him very well, say he's a very good and nice guy and a very godly man. So I think those are all things that will suit him well in that position. So we'll watch him and see if he holds up to his promises. But so far, I like what I see with this guy. Coming up in just a moment, 2024 update. It's straight ahead right here on Super Talk 99.7. All right, cold weather is coming. Heads up. I mean, listen, if you haven't heard, next week we're going to be below freezing. That's right. I'm sorry to tell you that, but it's true. And is your heater ready to go? Have you tried it out to make sure it works okay? If it's on the blink, you need to call the people. I would call the folks at Busy Bee. Just that number. You know it. You heard it in the jingle, 775-7833. And the folks at Busy Bee will buzz right over to your house and get you up and running. Listen, if you need to replace your system, which happens, they don't last forever. And if that's the case, you're not going to find a better deal than you'll find at Busy Bee. If you have questions, all you got to do is call the office and ask to speak to the owners, William or Brandon, and they will take care of you. I like the Busy Bee Club. I'm a member. It starts at as little as $99, and for that, you get a lot of preventative maintenance system service on your systems. One at the beginning of heating, one aimed at cooling, one aimed at plumbing. No overtime charges, 24/7, 10% off all repairs. Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling is your official Rude Pro partner for satisfaction guaranteed. Call Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling, 615-775-7833, online at busybeehvac.com. "25 minutes now past the hour of 6 o'clock. I'm Brian Wilson, and you're listening to The Drive on this 27th day of October. And, we're not that far along from, we'll be on Halloween, what is next Tuesday. And do you have your Halloween candy, Chris? Have you gotten that yet?
I think we do have some stuck away somewhere. I don't think we've eaten it all yet. Yeah.
That's the danger.
You know,
see?
that's what happens.
I mean, there's a tipping point there. If you get it too early, you'll eat it.
Yeah.
Because it's there. But if you wait too long, then you get the crappy candy.
Yeah. But, I think that's actually what we did. We just went ahead and got the crap. I mean, it's not crappy candy, but it's not the candy we like. And so I think that's why we haven't eaten it all, is because we don't really care for it. It's not our favorite. We just avoid that altogether.
What would you say is the crappiest candy? I mean, so I bought a couple, 2 or 3 bags of mixed stuff, right? Because I saw that it had Kit Kats, little Kit Kats and little Hershey bars and little Reese's, peanut butter cups, which, those are my favorites. And then when I opened up the bag, I found it was largely filled with Whoppers.
Oh,
which I hate. I don't like them at all.
I don't care.
I'll
for
be giving
Whoppers
away
either.
a lot of Whoppers at my house.
Yeah, that of that mix, I know that mix that you're talking about. Whoppers is definitely the least desirable.
That's the cheap filler. That's how they get you.
Yeah.
It's all the candy syndicates have got it. They've got this thing figured out.
Oh, they know.
Give them the crappy candy, but let them know there's just enough in there that make you want to buy it. But then when you really and then they cover up the clear bags with all of the prints. You can't really see what's in there.
Yeah, you have no clue how many of what is in there. It's a racket.
Where are you, by the way, on the very controversial subject of candy corn?
I don't like them.
Don't like it?
Do not like. I used to eat them, but I don't know if I ever truly liked them. I know it's one of those things where if I eat 3 or 4, I get sick to my stomach. It's just so sugary sweet.
It is, yeah.
And so I don't like them. I do not eat them anymore.
I don't know that I would seek them out, but I know that if they're in a bowl somewhere and I'll eat them.
Yeah. Now I do know that I remember you talking about this a couple of Halloweens ago. I think it was if you mix candy corn with peanuts,
salted peanuts,
it's delicious. And I did try that, and it was good.
I'm telling you, ladies and gentlemen, this is the big secret. If you have candy corn and, you're not a big fan of candy corn, get some salted peanuts, mix it together 50-50. Half candy corn, half salted peanuts. Grab a handful, shove it in your mouth all day long. That's a payday bar.
Yep, it is.
It's exactly what that is.
And I think what makes it good is that the salty peanuts cuts that just harsh overload of sugar that the candy corn brings. It's a pretty good balance, gotta say.
So, I guess the major manufacturer of candy corn is the Brock's company, BRACH, Brock.
Yeah.
They churn out. Do you have any idea how much they churn out in a given year?
Like how many candy corn? Like individual
just
corns?
how many pounds? Let's say pounds.
Probably a couple 100,000 pounds.
30 million pounds.
30 million? Who is eating all of those candy corns?
That's enough to, if you were to place candy corns end to end, that would circle the planet 5 times. It amounted to, there were $88.5 million in candy corn sales, and the Brock's company is responsible for about $75 million of it.
Wow. I'd never knew that.
$75 million. Oof.
Mm-mm. I couldn't eat a nickel's worth of those millions.
Let me just say that candy corn is the Peeps of Halloween.
Peeps, yeah, that's another one that's bad.
Yeah,
I'll say that's a pretty good comparison.
And by the way, Peeps come from Brock as well.
The evil Brocks.
Yeah, that's right. Anyway, if you haven't gotten your Halloween candy, you got a few more days. But I mean, if you wait too long, there's nothing left down there but candy corn.
Or if you wait until after Halloween, then you can get it buy one get one free or half off or whatever.
But again, it's not the good stuff because the good stuff goes early.
Yeah, maybe.
Now it's a balancing act. 30 minutes now past the hour of 6 o'clock on Super Talk. Hey, listen, was it a smelly experience the last time you went to a garage of some kind to have your car worked on? Stinky, stinky, stinky. Well, they smelly, greasy old rags laying around a countertop that you wouldn't dare touch. Another thing that stinks at some of these repair shops is that they keep your car forever. They're not honest, and they don't call you back when they say they will. That was your last experience at vehicle repair shops. It's time to try something different. And the folks at Eurofix take the stink out of European auto repair. At Eurofix, you get a free 15-minute no-wrench inspection with an estimate at every visit. I mean, not high-pressure sales tactics. That's not the game they play. At Eurofix, you get a 3-year nationwide warranty and a free loaner car with every repair appointment. You'll never pay dealer prices. Eurofix now has locations in Franklin, 100 Oaks, Murfreesboro, Belmead, and now their newest facility, really nice one, in Mount Juliet. Call 844-EUROFIX. That's 844-EUROFIX, or visit myEurofix.com. That's myEurofix.com, and tell them your friend and radio buddy, Brian Wilson, sent you. It's 37 minutes past the hour of 6 o'clock, evening time here on a Friday. Just a few more minutes before we headed off to the Mark Levin show. That's right, the great one will take over here after the news at the top of the hour. And while I have a few minutes here, let's have a 2024 update and give you some of the numbers that are coming out. And we have a new candidate that is entering on the Democrat side of the equation. What, you didn't hear anything about it? Yeah, I know. Well, it's not making much of a splash, but I'll give you what we got here, okay? Let's start with looking at some polling data. And if you're a Democrat and if you're in the Biden White House, you're looking at these things and you got to realize, oh, man, this is not going so well. There's nothing that's going in the right direction right now for the Biden administration. You can't find anything that's going in the right direction. Here from the postmillennial.com, President Joe Biden's approval rating among Democrat respondents collapsed by double digits over the last month. Think about that. Double digits in the wrong direction in 1 month, resulting in a mere 37% overall job performance, one of his lowest approval ratings in the history of his presidency. According to a Gallup poll released on Thursday, 75% of Democrat respondents now approve of Biden's job performance. Well, that's 3/4. You say, yeah, but it's fallen 11 points since last month. It was up at 86% a month ago. Now, look, you're starting to see Democrats really get worried, and you're starting to see Democrats, really start to leave the Biden candidacy in a big way when it goes from 86% to 75% in 1 month, and that's Democrats. Only 35% of independents approve of Biden's job performance. That's down 4%, so that went from 39 to 35 in 1 month. And response from Republicans remained unchanged, but only 5% approve of the job he's doing. That's to be expected. Overall, you take those three, the Democrats, the independents, and the Republicans, and you do an average of it. It means that 59% of those in America believe Biden is doing a poor job as president. 1,009 respondents. This came out of the polling came out on, it was in between October 2nd and October 23rd. Margin of error, 4% either way. Well, so there you go. By the way, Gallup also discovered this year that for the very first time, Democrats sided with Palestinians more than they did Israelis. Scary. Very scary thought. So anyway, that's the latest on that polling. And now with Biden starting to do worse, it's not surprising that maybe a few Democrats might decide to put their toe in the water. Representative Dean Phillips, a Democrat of Minnesota, has now put his name in for consideration as he wants to run for president. Dean Phillips. I wouldn't know the guy if he bit me on the ankle. And probably, unless you live in Minnesota, you probably never heard of the guy. But here he is making his announcement.
I invite you to join me in declaring a new American independence, not from another nation or people, rather a new independence from fear and from the status quo.
And there's more.
I am today announcing my candidacy for the presidency of the United States of America.
All right. He says, I think President Biden has done a spectacular job for our country, but this is not about the past. This is an election about the future. I will not sit still. I will not be quiet in the face of numbers that are so clearly saying that we're going to be facing an emergency next November. He launched his candidacy in Concord, and he'll file to run in New Hampshire Democrat primary. He had already missed the deadline to appear in the Nevada primary. 54-year-old lawmaker, a third-term congressman from Minnesota's Minneapolis suburbs, coming from the state's deep red 3rd Congressional District, becoming the first Democrat to win the seat there since 1958. And probably reason he's running for national office is he's probably not going to get reelected back there in that ruby red district. He's said to be a centrist Democrat, left the House leadership on October 1st, and announced that he would step down from his role as co-chair of the Democrat Policy and Communications Committee. It is an extreme long shot, and it doesn't seem that he's the guy who would have the juice to overtake Biden. I think, this is probably the high watermark of his campaign right here, is his announcement. I just don't see this guy. Maybe he's got something up his sleeve that I don't understand, but the way it looks to me, this is not the guy that has the kind of juice to unseat a sitting president. Moving on to other news, I want to get to a couple of stories that I just didn't have time to get to today that I think are very, very important for you to hear. And I did get this one, but I think it bears repeating. It's a great story by Jeremy Finley over at Channel 4. He's a pretty good reporter. And he's talking about this person who lives in Green Hills, got a home there, name's Victoria Harris. And she keeps talking about how she has a frequent uninvited guest. And it's somebody who is vandalizing her home on a regular basis. When he first started vandalizing me, he would take my bird feeders and throw them over the fence. So I got a Ring camera to find out what was going on back there, and I caught him. But she wasn't prepared for what the video would show. He came around the fence with his pants down. That must have been a shock. I mean, who is this guy? Well, they know him, and so do a lot of people who live in that area. His name is Marquitas Hodge, and according to his arrest records, Channel 4 says he's been charged with more than 100 crimes, and he's been in and out of jail 60 times. Videos show him riding his bike to his crime scene. And when they call police, they get the same response every time. We don't have the resources. We don't have the facilities. We don't know what to do with these people. Because they are looked at, they are examined, and found to be incompetent to hold trial. Listen to this. According to Channel 4's investigation, they found that there are about 229 accused criminals in Davidson County who cannot be prosecuted for crimes because they've been deemed to be incompetent to stand trial. Charged with misdemeanor crimes, they were examined by the Vanderbilt University Forensic Evaluation Team, found to be incompetent, and apparently you cannot prosecute them. It's frustrating, the folks in the neighborhood say, because there are no repercussions for this guy's actions. He's harassing and making these people's lives miserable, and they can't do a dang thing about it. That's just not right. Deemed incompetent to stand trial means the accused criminals cannot understand the trial process, or they lack rational understanding of the process. Well, I don't know, but it just seems like there could be something that could be done. Something that could be done. I mean, even if they are misdemeanor crimes and you can't get these people to stand trial, why should they be allowed to skate? Why should they be returned to open society? It's not right. And you know, these kind of things start out as, well, minor crimes, but, you know, he goes from throwing bird feeders over the fence to walking around the neighborhood naked. What's next? I just... Another example of how it seems that our criminal justice system is not really serving the people who live in this community, but they're looking more about the interest of the criminal than they are about the people who live here. The number one job of a government is to make sure that the people are safe. And this is, if there's like 229 people walking around who are immune from prosecution on any level, because they don't understand, they are deemed by some psychologist somewhere from Vanderbilt to be unable to comprehend the legal process or the nature of the crimes they're committing. There ought to be another way. There ought to be I think part of our problem here is we don't have enough mental health facilities, and we don't have the laws to have these people committed. Another story that may make you angry, Tennessee Attorney General Skermetti has sued the Biden administration because the Biden administration, he says, has bypassed the state of Tennessee and decided to give the state's Title 10 funding directly to Planned Parenthood in September. And the Tennessee Attorney General is taking action. We're suing to stop the federal government from playing politics with the health of Tennessee women. Our lawsuit is necessary to ensure that Tennessee can continue its 50-year track record of successfully providing public health services to the neediest population. But after the Human Life Protection Act was passed by the state legislature, signed into law by the governor in August of 2022, ending the practice of abortion in Tennessee, the state was denied Title 10 funding because healthcare clinics are no longer allowed to suggest or complete abortion procedures. And that Title 10 funding was used for things other than abortion. And Skermetti's complaint, which was filed with the U.S. District Court for the Eastern District of Tennessee, says the federal government's actions are unconstitutional. They're trying to coerce states into carrying out pro-abortion policy in violation of statutory, constitutional, and administrative law limits, the complaint says. Now, we don't like what you did there in Tennessee, and so we're going to withhold this money from you. Not right. Not right. This is a good idea, and I love this idea, and this should go forward in other jurisdictions. It is one of the great lessons of the Covenant shooting, and that is that in the Covenant shooting, every single teacher had crisis training as to what to do, active shooter training. They knew what to do. They knew how to lock the doors. They knew where to put the kids in the room. They pulled out their emergency kits and were ready to go. They did everything they were supposed to do, except for one substitute teacher who had never had the training. And the two kids, I think, the three kids that were killed, I think, were in that classroom. They got to the 1 weak point, and the reason that the teacher didn't follow the guideline is the teacher's never been given the training. She was a sub. Rutherford County School Board member Frances Rosales knows the frustration, and she's a substitute teacher, and she says that she didn't have the training to know what to do in a shutdown. So now Rutherford County schools are requiring active shooter training for all substitute teachers. This is a good idea. This is a good idea, and if it's not happening in your school district, you need to be asking why. Because, in an active shooter situation, it's the weak link that can cause the problem. 50 minutes now past the hour of 6 o'clock. I want to tell you about the folks at Stoltz Co. If you're in the market for a pole barn, the brothers who run Stoltz Co. are the two guys you need to be talking to. They provide exceptional quality, craftsmanship, and fair prices. They can build you your new pole barn to your specifications with your needs in mind. That is the Stoltz Co. difference. Pole barns can be used for a lot of things, a classic tool or work barn, a garage. It can even be turned into a place to live. Flexibility is key. They combine the classic post-frame barn look with the reliability of modern materials and techniques to give you a finished barn that will stand the test of time. They don't scrimp on quality. They don't cut corners. They believe their customers deserve only the best. Now, I want to ask you to go to their website, stoltzco.com, STOLTZCO.com. Take a look at some of the examples that they have posted there. And I think when you look at it, you'll say, man, that's nice. I could use something like that. So then call them at 615-622-5992. Stoltz Co., where quality workmanship and great customer service is affordable, 615-622-5992 or stoltzco.com. Learn more at stoltzco.com.
Hey folks, I'm Paul Winkler. One of the biggest decisions people have to make in retirement is how to take Social Security. You'll get all kinds of workshops about that, and you'll see all kinds of things about that particular topic. Because Social Security, for some people, it might be a third or even more of their income in retirement. So you want to get this decision right. Well, how do you make the decision? Well, one of the things we look at, there are programs we use. This is one of the simpler programs that we use right here. And I want to just show you how it works and how it actually unravels some of the misconceptions we have about Social Security. So we have two people here, they're age 60, and they're looking at filing for Social Security. One person has a retirement benefit of $2,500. That is their main benefit from Social Security at their full retirement age. The other one has a $500 benefit. And what we can do here, which is kind of cool, is look at this and say, okay, well, what if we have this person has that life expectancy and that person has that life expectancy there? And then what we do is we assume a certain cost of living increase in Social Security. What would be the optimal for taking the benefit where they get the most benefit or the most bang from their buck? And where we see the star, that shows that we would have the best benefit. Now, this is one person filing at age 67, the other person at age 70. Well, a lot of people think, well, I retire, I have to take Social Security at the same time that I retire, and that's not necessarily the case. As you can see here, one may take it at one age and one may take it at another, even though they're the same age right now. Now, the other thing we can do is say, well, what if I took it early? What if I took it at this particular age right here, where one person's 65 and the other one's 65? You can actually see how much it could cost in benefits when we do this, we can see how much it might cost us and how much it might affect us negatively to do that. Now, the other thing we can do is we can play around the life expectancies, and we say, well, if this person lives to that age, now the cost is $187,000 in this particular example, taking it at that age right there. So you can see, based on your own life expectancy, and typically people will say, well, what did my parents live to, and come up with that type of data. So this is just part of the financial planning process that we use at Paul Winkler Inc. If you want to know more about what we do, you can get a free 15-minute phone call at our website, paulwinkler.com. We do financial planning, full financial planning. We do investing education and investing. We actually help people through those decisions, helping them set up their 401ks and those types of decisions, as well as risk management. But we don't get paid on commission. That's what makes us so different from other firms out there that do what we do. So if you want to find out more, go to paulwinkler.com.